Ready?
Yep.
All right. I think we're live, maybe. There's quite a
landing at Stewart.
Who are we even? I don't know who I am.
That was our Air National Guard flyover. You know, the national anthem was brought to you by GribbleNation.org because every road has a story.
Yes.
All right, I think we're good.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Come back next week.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Screw you. See you next Saturday. End of show.
I like that logo better when there was an arrow going through the hat.
Yes.
Yeah, the original... This is a different iteration than the original version, right?
Even without the arrow, this is still a more modern take on it.
Yeah.
There was the arrow, there was the lack of arrow, and then they gradually made the hat stupider.
Well, that's why I call it Silly Hatland now myself, because the hat just looks goofy.
Take off that silly ass hat. No,
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, that is a line from like the Chris Rock "No Sex in the Champagne Room." Take off that silly ass hat.
I'm not familiar with that. No.
Yeah, I have to play it after the tour.
Oh, okay.
We also like to call this the ass puke.
Yeah, I think Chris Jordan came up with that one years ago.
That sounds about right.
Well, on that note, good evening, everybody. Season 3, Kickoff Spectacular. All right, welcome back.
It's really not that spectacular. It's just us.
It's really not because there's just 3 people tonight, but that's okay. You know, season openers tend to be spectacular, and we're gonna make the best of what we have.
We're going to ass. So.
Yeah, well, you might, but yeah. Who is, let's see. Well, there's only 3 people on this show tonight, so it's very easy to do player introductions. I've got myself, who you already know, and we've got Steve from Alps Roads. Hi, Steve.
Who you already know.
Who we already know. And we have Doug from Gribble Nation, who you already know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's a very familiar panel tonight, and usually when we do these virtual tour episodes, we tend to have like a stadium full of people. So we're going to try something a little different tonight and just have 3 of us and see how that goes. Hopefully that'll just give us more time to chat and not get run over by the person sitting next to us.
Someone has complimented you on your voice.
I think we're all just going to share stories about the golden days when we were in college and we drove 120 down the Mass Pike with a full of sleeping people.
Steve, you can have the floor for that hour if you'd like.
No, we drove on I-84, not the Mass Pike. So.
Oh, my bad.
I went the opposite direction.
On the Pike, or you drove slower in college?
No, opposite direction on I-90.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, great to have all of you with us, and we're very excited to bring you this special virtual tour presentation on the Massachusetts Turnpike as we pick up kind of where we left off with the Eastern Turnpike series in the virtual tour episode Bank. I felt like this was a pretty good place to kick off the new season, and it's great to have you with us. So let's get right into this. We've already done player introductions, so that's one thing out of the way. So let's get to announcements before we get started. YouTube uploads. Doug has agreed to punt his Gribble Nation updates until later in the program, so we'll talk more about that later. On the YouTube front, this past week, you've seen a lot of South Carolina from me. That's the first time in about 6 years that you could say that. I can tell you that going forward in the next few weeks, there will be a lot more from North Carolina coming up soon. In fact, while we were sitting here pre-gaming, I went ahead and scheduled all the videos for the Charlotte Beltway, which is I-485. That'll be coming in early and mid-December. So yeah, that to look forward to. Well, we'll save all the Gribble Nation stuff for later. I won't get into the stuff that I've done just yet. We'll save that for later. So here we are. If you've been with us for the last 2 seasons, you know that I like to draw things out, and I'll give people a chance to visualize things. So here we are. Our season 3
really
Saturday
rectangle.
schedule. Excuse me? What?
I said it's a really beautiful rectangle.
That's what I thought you said.
That's what I thought I said.
It's more like a parallelogram to me.
Here's the season 3 Saturday schedule. Pretty straightforward here. We did kind of go over this already if you were with us for our October virtual tour episode.
As you all were.
I hope everybody was.
They
But
were.
But it is reproduced here, and it will be reproduced here every Saturday going forward, so you can kind of see where we are, what we're doing this week, and what we'll be doing in future weeks. So, so that's that. That's the story with the schedule. I should get rid of that. Also, I might remind you guys of this every week before New Year's Day, but there's a reason why I have New Year's Day triple starred the way that I do. That's because we're... You can make Laura very angry if you're booing that.
I can't help it.
Oh yeah, because you're not even going to be here for that.
I'm not going to be in this hemisphere or continental mass.
Well, screw you.
I'm probably going to make a 3 or 4 day weekend out of it. So.
Yeah,
I
so
wish I could be there.
Right. So the idea behind New Year's Day is that we are doing something that I think we have unofficially dubbed the Roadway Whiz Winter Classic.
I still have to draw a logo for that.
Okay. Well, you have time.
Yeah.
We're doing 2 episodes in one day, which we've never tried before. So that'll be interesting. We're doing a webinar for Baltimore and a virtual tour episode themed around Baltimore and Washington, D.C. So you have that on the horizon to look
Bring
forward
your crabs.
You will all be too hungover to tune out.
Yes, bring your crabs.
Man, we're going to be in rough shape by the second half of that Baltimore webinar. I can tell you that.
I will ask my cruise ship operator if they can beam this in from satellite.
Okay, that's cool.
They should make a like an actual event out of it. Like like cruise ships, they have all sorts of like different events and like activities that you can do.
This is not quite the same cruise ship. This is an Antarctic cruise, so
they should still be beaming Roadway Whiz.
Steve, could you call in via Skype
masses.
from Antarctica for us?
give me $20.
That can be arranged.
Hey, $20 is $20.
That's how much it costs for 1 day of internet on that ship.
We could probably arrange that. We'll talk off the air. All right, so that's the season 3 schedule. The other schedule I wanted to talk with you guys about since we're here is...
Ooh.
Yeah, look at this, man.
2022,
we're already looking forward to the road meet calendar, and we're looking forward to who's hosting what around this country. And so what I've done here on this slide is I've done the best I can to make sense of who's doing what when. And I've created 2 categories here. I've created confirmed meets, which is to say meets that actually have dates associated with them, and everything else that has been rumored or speculated about I'm putting in a separate category because I don't even want to begin to peel apart all the speculation going on with those events. If we start in the confirmed meets side of the ledger, you see that we have Jess is doing Natchez in March, right?
Yes.
Jason is doing Central PA. I believe that's going to be centered around York, Pennsylvania. I think.
Sure.
York or Lancaster, or something
York,
like that. Yeah.
Why not?
One of the houses from the War Roses.
Yeah.
I will say New York is way better than York.
I don't disagree with it.
York, PA, York, England, or Toronto, which was originally named York.
All right. Well. Wait, isn't there a York in Ontario still?
That's Toronto now.
But there isn't like a
there used to be like North York.
Oh. Okay.
Which is now part of Toronto.
All right. Well, anyway,
Whatever.
But you know more about this crap than I do.
Yeah.
But so Jason is doing Central PA. We've got AJ's meet in the Outer Banks at the end of April. That's a city meet format, so it's a little bit different. You're talking about more like would you say like a free roaming kind of thing after lunch?
It's
Like
kind
do
of
your own thing?
Adventure.
Yeah.
You have lunch. You meet together for lunch. You do your own thing like during the afternoon. Then you meet again for dinner.
Yeah, so like between the lunch and the dinner, you're pretty much on your own to do whatever you want. Like you can group up with other people, or you can just do your own thing individually.
Yeah.
It's a little different spin on the meat format.
I did that when he had one in Providence a few years back.
Yeah, and I heard that went really well.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So the Outer Banks is really gorgeous. So, and I'm sure it's really nice that time of year. So.
Yeah, April's the time of year to go before the.
Oh yeah, I would not go between May and September.
All of these meets are documented in the AA Roads forum, which you see at the logo in the upper right. In 2022 meet ideas. We are soon going to be making that a sticky topic in road enthusiast meetings, so you'll be able to see this calendar. And as some of these dates get set, so for example, some of the ones on the bottom, like Twin Cities and Cumberland, are down to 2 dates. So just because they're not confirmed, they're very close to confirmed. Yeah. Raleigh-Durham is entirely dependent on the East End Connector opening. We have no way to believe that it's ever going to open. So should they prove us wrong, we'll be ready.
It is open to drone traffic, young man.
I'm sure we will find out about that before.
Anyway, so to finish this up real quickly.
There are a couple that you don't have on here, though.
Well, we'll talk about that. So Scott is hosting an event in Iowa in May. Brandon is hosting a meet in the south and east side of Chicago in June. Gene is bringing back the San Antonio meet for October. And some asshole is hosting something in Philadelphia in August. Yeah. Now, in the potential meets bracket, we also have potential meets and I've picked a selection here. I haven't picked all of the potential ones, but
can I narrow it because I'm on the page right now?
Well, I'll give you a second to do that in a minute here. But
I got the dates for these, the potential dates. So
I don't want the potential dates.
I want.
Tell me the actual dates.
I want to know. I want to know.
So this is just a sampling, right? So the potential locations include Cumberland, Maryland.
Late May.
I mean, you can say that.
I'm just gonna throw it in.
But all this is subject to change, so that's why I'm not including it in the top Category because I think it's a waste of time to do it that way.
I'm just gonna throw it in. You ignore me. Let the people decide.
Okay, fine. We have Raleigh, Durham, and then you have Oklahoma City.
Late summer or fall.
And then I've heard through the grapevine that somebody wants to do a meet in West Central Connecticut around Meriden and Waterbury.
That would be me, and that would be in the early spring.
Ooh. Early spring.
I haven't nailed down a date, but it will not be on March 19th, nor will it be on April 23rd, because there's other meets planned. And
yeah, so that is something that's in the works, but nobody has actually said anything on the forum about it. But
we're not there yet.
We're not at that point. Wisconsin,
October,
and then the Twin Cities,
late
Minnesota.
August. Or Labor Day.
Those are the possible locations that we're looking at as well, in addition to the confirmed locations.
Yeah. And if you go to the Twin Cities, if they have like Labor Day week or the weekend before, that's also when the Minnesota State Fair goes on, and apparently that's one of the best state fairs in the country.
I have been, and if you like cheese curds, they have a lot.
Or if you like a cookie jar from Martha's Sweet Cookies.
That is also okay.
Yeah.
It's not the worst state fair to go to. It is not one of the 40 worst state fairs to go to.
Should I even mention who's hosting the Philly meet or no?
No.
Nah, I heard he sucks.
Yeah.
I bet you have heard that.
That's just going to talk people out of going.
It might.
I've heard a lot of people interested in that, so I'd hate to give them a reason not to go.
Well, I'm sure people will have plenty of reasons not to go between now and August.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll figure it out eventually.
Maybe they'll.
But yeah, on the heels of my inaugural adventure at hosting a road meet this past year in Wilmington, Delaware in July, I felt like I had enough experience to host another one, and I'm giving the national meet format a try, which is basically a full weekend of events. There will be meet tours on both days. There will be, you can call them pregame and postgame events on both days.
Extracurriculars.
Whatever you want to call them. So it's that weekend in August, August the 20th and 21st.
You might even be able to see the Phillies lose.
If they're playing, I don't know.
That late in the season is when they really start losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They're usually doing well until then.
anyway, that is a Roadway Whiz hosted road meet, and I'm happy to announce it tonight.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to it. I've already gotten a lot of scouting out of the way for that.
Well,
so
they are playing the
it's looking
Mets
pretty
that
good.
weekend, so apparently they lose more than the Phillies.
Yeah.
I should know. I'm a Mets fan. It takes a lot of antacid medication to be a Mets fan.
Well,
I would think by now you're just used to it. It doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, you get used to it.
So tonight's drive looks like this. We're starting at exit 22 on the New York State Thruway and proceeding east across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we're going to end up about 165 miles later in East Boston.
What is a Commonwealth?
Is this one of those things we can tackle between exits 2 and 3?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remind us when we get there.
I'm sure I'll forget.
Okay. So that's our drive. Very simple. Of course, hey, look who came back for season
Mr.
3.
Angry.
Mr. Angry came back for season 3. And he would like to remind you that next Saturday we have our first webinar episode of the season.
Is he going to come to your house?
He's already here, man. Like, I can't get him to leave.
It makes me angry.
We have a special webinar episode for you dealing with American suspension bridges. Some of the greatest spanning bridges in this country will be chronicled and talked about in depth next Saturday.
And this terrible one right here.
And I'm quite positive that we will have a very interesting and well versed and well experienced panel for that. So.
Do you want to actually tell them? 'Cause I think that's neat enough that I would tell them now about the intrigue.
What
You mentioned that little fact before about the panel.
Okay, yes.
I would tell the viewers. I leave it up to you. I'm not gonna.
Well, what is the point you want? Oh, well, I mean, I guess
Up to you.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm told it's going to be a hoot.
it is. It could.
And that bridge looks familiar, like it's the cover photo from the West Coast Roads Facebook group.
be. Is it really?
Yeah.
See, I don't even pay attention to this shit, so.
I should know. I took the picture. Not that one.
You didn't take that one.
No, the cover photo one.
Well, I don't know which one the cover photo one is. All right, I should go look. All right. Well, if you're not using that one, then
No, I'm using a different one.
okay.
Of the same bridge.
Okay, fair enough. So anyway, we have a very qualified panel of experts joining us next Saturday, and we hope you can join us for that.
I dispute that.
Yeah, never mind. Steve might be a panelist on that episode,
Yeah.
so never mind.
Tisk.
No, I'm not going into that. We'll go into that next weekend.
Also, the national meet in August. I'm going to probably be mentioning this a few times along the way this season, but this is the big get-together planned for next summer in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly love. Hope you can join me. And what would you like to say something?
I'm just laughing at the nickname.
Okay. Hope you can join us for that. It'll be a great weekend. It'll be a lot of fun for everybody.
Well, Benjamin Franklin was kind of a horn dog.
I think the city was named ironically. I'm pretty sure it was named ironically.
Yeah. And Benjamin Franklin, yeah, he was a horn dog.
You have horn-rimmed glasses, I hear.
Yeah. All right. So.
They can all. Our viewers can see your desktop background, right?
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
I like that. Yeah.
You like this?
I'm a fan.
Would you like to spend the next 2 hours just looking at this?
Considering this versus Mass Pike, probably.
Anyway. All right. So, this video is... By the way, does anybody have any questions? I didn't ask that.
This video was long, but it's...
We should also point out that the first number of minutes of it are not in Massachusetts at all, and you didn't give them a shield for that.
No, because I didn't feel like it.
Is there a
So that's
special
okay.
shield for the Berkshire extension?
Nah, it's still the Thruway shield.
Yeah.
They just posted the... What did they do for that one stretch between I-90 and 87?
Well, what? You know
Well,
what?
we'll find
Why don't we answer those questions in a few minutes here as we
We'll
start the
find out.
video? So this video is 2 hours and 20 minutes. It covers about 164 miles or whatever. You can do the math on what the average speed is on that. It ain't 65, I'll
looks
tell
like
you
it
that.
says 2 hours exactly.
So, here we go. Your trip along the Mass Pike starts now, folks.
Oh, I see. Now it says 000. Got it.
Hey, look, there's no toll plaza. Or no toll booth anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is the entrance to 87 and 90 at exit 22 in Selkirk, New York. We should mention very quickly that yes, all of the toll booths on the New York State Thruway are now gone. They no longer exist. They were replaced with the cashless tolling gantries, similar to the one that we just passed underneath. The 2-year-long project that cost about $350 million statewide saw the conversion of the entire New York State Thruway system to cashless tolling. This project was completed substantially in October of 2021.
And there's not many toll booths left on the other toll facilities in New York.
There's not many left.
The one for the Mid-Hudson Bridge is still there, but they're working on that right now.
Yeah.
But Rip Van Winkle, that's out. Bear Mountain, that's out.
Yep.
Last time I went on Bear Mountain, and I was sad to see because even if the toll booth was a replacement of the original, it still had an historic look to it.
Yeah, and then when the Rip Van Winkle bridge, when they were doing the replacement, they had to basically, the bridge authority had to put a disclaimer on Facebook saying, "Hey, this is a toll plaza from 2002."
I know. Yeah, they did go out of their way to do that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, we've left I-87 Jewish, and now we're on.
I-887.
So now we've taken exit 21A on the Thruway, and we've entered the eastbound Berkshire Spur of the New York State Thruway. This was built as a separate project from the mainline north-south Thruway between New York City and Albany. It was built to essentially connect that road directly with the west end of the Mass Pike, which we're going to quickly approach in the next 20
That
minutes.
was built in the 50s. The
Yeah.
West End looked like it came out right around 54 or so.
I believe it was mid-50s, yeah.
And we'll talk about some of the ends that the Mass Pike had before it actually went into the Berkshire Spur.
So we'll see one, but the thing is, I looked at historic aerials before this, and 53 there was nothing. 57 it already connected to the Thruway, so that the end that we're going to focus on first was very short-lived.
Yeah, the bridge that we're going to cross here, the Castleton Bridge over the Hudson River, that was the final link in the Berkshire Spur. It opened in 1959. Until then, the Mass Pike tied into the Berkshire Spur, and the Berkshire Spur was complete as far west as exit B1. This bridge was part of the final link between B1 and 21A when that was finally opened.
Now this unfortunately, because of construction, you're not going to be able to see the point I wanted to make. But the reason that from here to B1 has no interstate number, even though it is a freeway connecting two interstates, is because this bridge has, in essence, a curved median, and it's definitely not up to any sort of freeway standards. And without the construction, you would see that.
Yeah.
And so it's almost undivided for all intents and purposes, and therefore would never be able to get an interstate number. So it remains numberless and just signed to Mass Pike, to Thruway, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, there's no median divider and there's no shoulders either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could have been grandfathered, but the lack of divider is why it never got a number even in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
Yep. And then basically right next to the Castleton Bridge, there's a rail bridge as well.
Yeah, which you might have seen off to the right, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a nice road underneath both of these that gives you a great view from below.
Yep, through Skodak Island State Park.
Yep. Yeah, that road underneath is New York Route 9J. The railroad bridge is the Alfred H. Smith Memorial Bridge.
As opposed to Alfred E. Smith, who was a governor of New York. It was a governor of New York, and he was the first Catholic nominee for a major party in the presidential election.
Before
He lost to Hoover.
Okay. So that railroad bridge carries CSX and Amtrak over the Hudson River. It's actually the southernmost fixed rail link for freight traffic on the Hudson River, which is very strange because you think, well, New York City is about 100 miles to the south. You would think that there would be another active rail bridge somewhere in there. Well, no, that's not the case.
Or tunnel or anything.
There's no nothing.
Yeah,
so
the tunnels
Well,
are all
There used to
traffic
be
only.
a working railroad bridge in Poughkeepsie, which is now the walkway on the Hudson, or over the Hudson. rather.
yeah.
That was a rail bridge. I want to say until around 1975 or so, when the bridge went on fire.
Yeah, the fire was right around then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So the Berkshire Spur continues for about 23 miles between exit 21A on the main line Thruway and the state line with Massachusetts. And as I said, this is the most recent, relatively speaking, of the sections. It opened in 1959. It was actually the final link in the Thruway system that we know today, because the Grand Island section of I-190 had been completed earlier in the year in 1959.
Yeah.
So this was actually the final link in the toll system and also in the actual Thruway system that was
So was
constructed.
the New England Thruway was already finished by then?
I believe that was in 57 when that was completed.
And we're not counting I-84 or I-287.
Well, it's just not the stuff that was added later from the
Yeah.
interstate system, but the originally envisioned Thruway system. Yeah.
Well, if you look towards our right, you might be able to make out there used to be basically a rest area here where you see the cars. That is now a reception hall for weddings. It's called like Birch Hill or something like that. But yeah, you might be able to see like the access road and what have you. But yeah, that used to be a rest area. I want to say until like the early 90s or so.
Side tangent time. We have two of those in New Jersey on the I-78 Turnpike Hudson County extension,
Yeah.
which is, I think it's public enough knowledge. I'm going to share it here and risk my entire professional career that we're looking to widen that. We don't know yet what the impacts are going to be, but those have been turned into truck parking areas already. So with the widening, for all that I know, those are going to disappear entirely. They could remain as just side lots for construction staging. I don't know, but I would not be surprised if those disappear. So it's nice to see that this got reused and it's not going to disappear.
So one thing you'll notice on the Berkshire Spur is that the exit numbers and also the mileage have letters suffixed. Basically, like you'll see exit B1, which is B for Berkshire. And then, of course, the mileage, they'll count obviously from I-87 to Massachusetts, then like it's like mile like B5 or B6, et cetera.
So I-90 and I-87 both have 3 sets of mile markers in New York.
I-90,
yeah, they do.
I-90 does, yeah, technically. Yep.
It counts
Here's
down
exit
from Pennsylvania,
yeah,
then it comes up through Albany, and then it hits this and takes over these.
and counts up this way.
Yep.
Yeah, so I-90 has joined the program, ladies and gentlemen. It entered at exit B1, which we just passed. By the way, with the cashless tolling upgrade at B1, that interchange is a lot of fun to drive, especially if you're coming west off of the Thruway.
Yeah.
'Cause you take that turn, and it's like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
You used to have to slow down at that booth there, but now you can just fly right through to that Route 9 off-ramp.
Yeah. Or me, I just continue.
Well, you keep
for the
going,
rest.
but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm in Troy, so
Yeah.
it makes sense for me to take that
Yeah.
one of the exits for Troy.
Yeah, so I-90 has joined us and will be with us for the remainder of this episode. I-90 begins, of course, in East Boston and runs for about 3,020 miles, something like that, all the way to Seattle, Washington. It's the nation's longest interstate highway.
Amusing fact, I-90 was extended on the east end by about as much mileage as it is missing on the west end that will never be constructed.
Yeah, okay.
It was supposed to end at 93. They extended it through the tunnel, but they've never built the piece west of Safeco Field, or whatever they call it now. So
Whatever the hell it's called.
yeah,
I
so
don't
they're
know.
missing a mile and change on the west end. They extended it by, I think, a little over 2 miles on the east end. But
Yeah, it's a few miles. Yeah.
yeah, makes up for it.
But yeah, okay. I don't know. So Doug made a good point about the exit numbers and how not only are they sequential still on the Thruway, but they're also on the Berkshire
Letter
side.
prefix.
You have the letter prefix B, So there are 3 interchanges on the Berkshire Spur, and they are numbered, predictably B1, B2, and B3.
You could play a game of bingo
You could.
between that and the Niagara section.
If
So they got rid of the N prefix on the Niagara section
But
years
the
ago,
exit,
but
it
it used to be that
the
you
exit
had.
and like the mile markers are still like.
Are the mile markers
yeah.
still with N's on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was there last Saturday. Yeah.
Okay.
So if and when New York's hand is ever forced to that the Thruway has to go mile based, the going presumption, especially with everything now all electronic, is that I-90 will be renumbered starting at 0 in Pennsylvania. Instead of the current count down following the Thruway, exit numbers and mileage will count up like normal highways do. And the Berkshire extension, if you follow the MUTCD, heading west, the main line would have the exit number. The exit for I-90, being the interstate main line, would not have an exit number. So what is currently B1, heading westbound, would have no exit number at all. And heading east on the Berkshire extension, they could do whatever they damn well please, because it's not an interstate, but you don't really have to have an exit number there either. You could just say 90 west to the right, 90 east straight ahead, heading the other way, 87 south, 87 north.
So you could treat it as like a split.
And
basically.
in
A glorified long exit ramp.
and in New York State, I-90 is something I want to say around 380 miles or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a long highway in New York.
So I mean, you've already got 3 digits in the mile markers. Easy enough to turn B11 into 370 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They'll
the
replace-
mile
they'll replace
markers.
it,
Yeah,
don't
the
worry.
mile markers would have to be changed also. Yeah.
I think 17 is slightly longer by a few miles.
I think you're
Yes,
right.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's because it comes down and visits me.
But the New York in general, and also the Thruway Authority, they're going to really drag their feet on the changeover. So I would imagine that the Thruway will be one of the last roads you see switched.
Well, Vermont still hasn't figured it out.
Vermont is badass to the point where they have 2 exit numbers on all their exits.
Well, they do the mile points.
Yeah.
Who's
It's-
even left at this point? New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire's going to die because they'd rather live free.
Yeah.
But it's them in
Connecticut
New York.
is
Connecticut.
converting
Slowly, yeah. They've got a plan for every highway, I think.
Yeah.
So
Massachusetts did everything earlier this year.
Rhode
unlike-
Island has done some things.
unlike New York, Connecticut is at least planned for it. Rhode Island,
They've done some of them.
they're just gonna join Massachusetts. at
Hey,
some point.
Mohawk Honda. That's actually where I bought my car.
This is not
Yeah.
your car, by the way.
That's not my CRV. Same color, but
Visit MohawkHonda.com. Mention Doug Kerr and get special 10% added to your price.
That's it.
I actually bought 2 CRVs from there.
Oh, and the other state to mention, as far as conversions are concerned, Delaware.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's actually no exit numbers on 295.
I don't think
Route
so.
one is kilometer.
Yeah, nothing in Delaware is mile-based exits right now.
Nothing is.
Yeah.
Not even Route 1.
Nothing.
Yeah. So Delaware's another state that's going to have to switch
Fair
over
enough.
at some point.
You don't really think of that because there's, the I-95, for instance,
No one remembers.
Like the highest
Delaware
exit-
exists.
doesn't
The-
have that many
The
miles.
highest
Delaware.
exit number on 95 is 11, and when you drive through Delaware, you feel like you've been there for 11 miles.
People don't even
So it's-
realize that I-95 does not follow the Delaware Memorial Bridge. So,
Yeah.
don't give any credit to
Most
anyone
people
on this.
go that way, but
Yeah.
I guess that's why they call Delaware a small wonder.
it is. It's over before you know it. Anyway,
Delaware is the only East Coast state that doesn't have US 1 in it.
do you want to talk about the Taconic Parkway while we're here at B2?
Yeah, the Taconic Parkway. That well, you'll
Taconic
see
State
the sign
Parkway.
for that. It goes down, basically follows, basically kind of, I want to say the east kind of the east side of the Hudson Valley. Basically through Columbia County, Dutchess County, Putnam County, into Westchester County. It is just over 100 miles. I think it's about 105 miles.
Yeah, it's about that. Yep.
Speed limit is 55. Don't speed too much on that. Cops
Yeah,
on that road.
that's the thing about this road is
I-
that the
I-
cops love to sit on that road.
Go
both
under 70 and you're fine. But
both the state
Yeah.
cops and the local cops too.
But the Taconic is very scenic. When the interchange was built, originally there was like a double trumpet because there was a thought that the Taconic Parkway was going to be extended.
Yeah.
And it was
At some point.
graded through there as a full freeway
Yeah.
trumpet interchange.
You
Whether
can-
whether
yeah.
whether it would have ended at US 20 or went further, there were talks of basically it bending and going towards Albany, which of course I-90,
Which probably would have made more sense traffic-wise.
fulfills that need. I've also
You can keep going
I've
north.
also read that they were going to build it basically towards Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could have went in any number of directions.
But anyway, that the B2 interchange, and it's not really that easy to spot nowadays, but if you look hard, you can see the grading.
Northbound, you can see the old grading veer off to the right.
Yeah.
Because they realigned the main line into the trumpet, but you can see where it would
Yeah.
originally have gone to the right instead of the left.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say that exact same thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
ooh,
So, hey, look, we fast-forwarded to
the same spot.
3 days earlier.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the story with the Taconic. I can tell you, as an engineer/inspector, I spent many a summer day in 2020 hanging out in this general stretch of the Thruway system between exits B2 and B3. The east end, if you want to call it that, the east end of the ticket system on the New York Thruway is coming up here in about a mile at the Canaan toll gantry. Now, the original plaza here had to be replaced with overhead gantries, but it wasn't just that. We had to do a lot of work with full-depth roadway reconstruction, realignment. So we actually spent a long time here, probably 3 to 4 months straight, just working on the road approaches to the toll plaza. And then once the conversion to cashless went through, we spent another couple of months taking down the plaza and then reconstructing the lanes within the plaza area. So there was a lot that had to be done here, and what you're driving through right now is the finished product that we put together.
And Mass Pike is cashless too, right?
Yeah.
It is
The
indeed.
plaza was right around here where you see the overhead lighting.
Yeah, so that the plaza was actually quite extensive. It was pretty wide through here.
Yeah, it was.
And so we had to knock all that down, and then the gantries that are coming up here are the finished product that we put in.
So the New York Thruway, I know, uses a mix of mainline gantries versus exit gantries. It seems like in this area, they've done exits. So in stretches where they do the mainline gantries, you'd pass under a gantry between every interchange that would track the progress. In other sections, such as this,
Yeah.
they're only tracking where you leave the system. So this is essentially, you've now left the tolled throughway system because
Right.
you're basically at the state line.
Yeah, so we've
Yeah.
left the eastern terminal gantry, so now we're outside of the toll system.
Massachusetts, I think, is exclusively a mainline
It
tolling.
is, yes.
Yeah.
So you'll see gantries between every interchange. For the most part, there are some exceptions, but there are a few interchanges on Mass Pike where you can get on and get off the next one without paying a toll. You will see that as we go here through Springfield, but
Yeah. So the
and this guy.
yeah, this guy.
Hey, bud.
So
let's move over.
the Thruway looked into a few different options as far as how to actually position the gantries and where to put them. They did look at an all interchange format. They also looked at an all mainline format. The mainline format is what we're going to see on the Mass Pike. They did look into putting interchange gantries at all the other urban interchanges, like the ones in Albany that you're
Yeah,
familiar
Albany,
with.
Syracuse.
They decided, and I think rightfully so, that it would be too much of a headache, construction-wise, to try to put gantries in those locations. It would have been too much of a hassle. So that left the mainline option, and so the Thruway wanted to minimize the number of mainline gantry locations on the system. So they ended up only putting them in quote-unquote urban areas.
Yeah.
So you have a hybrid system where in rural areas it's just like the old system where it's based on where you leave the Thruway, and then in urban areas there are literally gantries between each interchange.
So if you get on at point X in rural New York, it'll log where you get on. If you stay on the Thruway, at some point it'll say, okay, they've passed under this mainline gantry, therefore they've been mainline traffic.
So that's the end of that
It's-
ticket
yeah.
system,
They will
quote
just,
unquote.
and then they'll just track you gantry to gantry until you get
until you either leave the system or you enter the next ticket system. So like if you
Right.
get on the Thruway at Albany and you go all the way to Rochester, you'll pass through a ticket system between Schenectady and Syracuse. You'll pass through mainline gantries through Syracuse.
Virtual ticket
and then
system, yeah.
you'll pass through another virtual ticket system between Syracuse and Rochester.
Right. And then there's another one near Buffalo.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so the way with this system, if you exit in an urban area,
Yeah.
you just will not have passed that next gantry. So the system at some point times you out and says, okay, they must have exited because they haven't gotten to the next.
I think it's 24 hours.
Right. It's long enough that you can't sleep in a rest area and time out.
Yeah, I believe it's 24 hours. Yep. Exit B3 is coming up. Before I don't think there's really anything to talk about it.
Well, it is the last
B3.
exit in New York.
It is the last exit in New York,
Yeah.
and I do have a couple of super chats I want to acknowledge. Thank you for sending those in. Redneck Lover 22, says, appreciate your channel, and while my semi is parked, I thought I'd donate $5. Thank you for that. I stand by that Wiz's voice is sexy. Well,
And who said that?
this is Redneck Lover 22 on YouTube.
So you're a redneck then, because he loves it.
Speaking
I guess. I
of
don't know.
trucks, there's a truck stop to the left of here.
Yeah, that Love's truck stop gets a lot of traffic because there's no service plaza on the Berkshire Spur. So
Yeah.
a lot of truck traffic will get off at B3, the first exit in New York, and use that truck stop.
Too bad the Swift driver doesn't know what truck stop is.
I wish he had stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, my understanding at one point they were looking at building rest areas along the Berkshire Spur. They didn't, and building the truck stop was kind of that compromise.
Yeah, because that is always busy. Every day that I came here for 3 or 4 months to this exit, there was always a ton of people there. So it gets a lot of business, that's for sure.
And after this bridge, we're going to cross into Massachusetts.
Keep an eye out on your left.
Yes.
I forget if I walked the stubs or I just photographed them, but you'll see.
I've
stubs.
just photographed them, but basically there's a stub that you'll see. It's kind of like a turnoff, probably right around here, where basically that's where the Mass Pike ended at Mass 102.
And that was a very brief terminal.
Yeah.
It was meant to be temporary because
it curved up sharply to the north and just T intersection.
And there was another temporary end for the Mass Pike at Mass Route 183, which is a few miles east of here. It's east of the West Stockbridge exit, but before the Lee exit.
Yeah.
That's too
But
bad.
welcome to Massachusetts. The Massachusetts Turnpike is now underway. The pike is 138 miles long. We have about 130 miles to Boston.
Yep, and plenty of Patriots and Red Sox bashing.
Plenty of time to talk about Gribble Nation updates in the next 45 minutes.
I'll handle the sports bashing.
The floor is yours if you would like to.
Yeah,
Well,
sucks.
before I get to that, let me just point out,
That's cheat,
in
sucks,
case
so.
we get distracted with other stuff, the west end of the Mass Pike, the old ticket system is coming up, and that's the West Stockbridge Toll Plaza at Exit 1. That was removed with the conversion of the Mass Pike system to cashless tolling a few years ago. But you can kind of still see as we go through the next interchange where the plaza used to be. I think it's used for truck parking now.
Yeah,
or something like
they
that.
use for truck parking, and it'll be there'll be a ramp that comes in from Route 41, which is the West Stockbridge exit. There's not an exit going eastbound on it. It's a westbound
Right.
exit
Yeah.
only, but there's a ramp that goes eastbound.
You can
non-ramp.
and you can see this road was designed before the modern interstate era. If you take out mentally the guide rail in the middle, which was added relatively more recently, you have a 20-ish foot grass median between the two sides, which is very typical late 40s, early 50s design.
Yeah.
And that's more like the Pennsylvania Turnpike in that regard.
Yeah, there's no cattle chute barrier though, so
Now,
they did a little bit of an
They
improvement.
did guide
there.
rail instead, so
Yeah. Well, here's where the plaza
Yes.
used to be. Yeah.
And another thing about Massachusetts and tolls, west of the exit for I-291, if you got on the Mass Pike and off the Mass Pike, west of that, at one point there were toll booths, but there was no toll.
At 2 points.
Yeah, so basically if you got on, let's say...
They did this, they reinstated the tolls at some point, and then after massive backlash, uninstated them a second time.
Yeah.
And then came all electronic tolling and ruined it for everyone.
Womp womp.
So we're now firmly in Massachusetts. There was one other super chat I wanted to talk about here real quick.
While you find that, we'll just mention that the reason for the free passage in the West was the idea was only locals are going to be getting on and off within this area, and it's such a better highway to use than most of the others. I will say US 20 moves pretty well, but other than 20, they thought they were throwing locals a bone and trying to appease the few residents of Western Mass, maybe for some other political gain.
Yeah, there's always politics involved with these things, aren't there?
Definitely political.
Here it is. Redneck Lover 22 says, wasn't a federal law passed to make all states switch to mileage-based exits? If so, when was that passed?
I wouldn't call it a federal law. The MUTCD I don't know if it happened before 2009. I know that the current edition that was passed in 2009 only allows for mile-based exit numbering. Earlier editions allowed for either mile-based or sequential. Once the MUTCD only allows mile-based, theoretically, the Federal Highway Administration can force a state's hand and say, we will withhold federal highway funding to your state because you are not in compliance and you don't have any plan to achieve compliance with our federal document. They have applied pressure. They have yet, as far as I know, to actually threaten a state, but they've applied enough pressure to get most states to convert. The thing is, toll agencies are not state highway agencies. They are separate. So the FHWA cannot make the Mass Pike convert by threatening to withhold funding because the Mass Pike is self-funding. They don't get federal funding for pretty much anything, excluding things like the Big Dig. But in general, they don't get federal funding.
They're a self-sufficient organization.
Right. So what would happen is the FHWA would go to Mass Highway and say, we can't force their hand, but since they're in your state, you don't get our funding if you don't make them convert. Mass Highway would then go to Mass Pike and very impolitely tell them what to do.
Really? So they can go around that way?
That's been our hypothesis, that if a toll agency is the last hiccup in a state for mile-based, that they would go to the state and tell the state, they're in your state, so we're withholding funding to you.
Well, I'm sure that could be challenged in court, couldn't it?
I don't no, because they're technically the state has to. They could find, they could find something else wrong in the state. They could use pretty much any excuse in the book. Say you're not following our standard, therefore no funding. And by the way, if you fix the exit numbers, we'll conveniently overlook this.
The Mass Pike is not MassDOT's jurisdiction, though.
No.
So that's where the hang-up is.
Right. No, this has been our hypothesis for what they would do if it got to that point.
By the way, by you saying your hypothesis, you're talking about professionally in your circle.
I'm not my hypothesis, but the hypothesis of those who have chosen to hypothesize on how that would happen.
Which are the wonderful commenters in the Road Geekery Facebook group.
Generally, everyone I've heard from thinks that's what they would do. But they haven't done it yet. So we have no way to know. Again, we're down to 3 or 4 states or agencies within states. So it's at what point is FHWA actually going to come back and say you have to do this? We don't know.
I hope that answers your question. Yeah. That was a good answer.
Yeah, we're passing by the Lee Plaza, which is one of the rest areas for the Mass Pike.
I've always really liked the billboard-sized logos of the McDonald's and all the other things.
I like that one is over the highway, so if it falls down, it would kill people.
Yeah, well, you kind of get that effect here, right?
Yeah. But you know that it's basically what's coming your way. Although I think that
in case you couldn't read the damn sign a few miles behind you.
Although I think McDonald's and Gulf are the standard vendors.
Yeah, on the Mass Pike, you'll see those the most often. Yeah.
And then they have a few other things.
There's no
D'Angelo,
I don't think there's.
Papagino's, I think.
I don't think there's.
Massachusetts-based Honeydew Donuts.
As bad as Papa John's is, Papagino's manages to be worse. They're actually below Pizza Hut and Domino's. That's how bad Papagino's is.
Yeah.
And go get Papagino's.
And
today.
we're approaching what's now exit 10, which used to be exit 2.
Yeah, so we were talking about exit renumbering, and the Pike got new exit numbers along with the rest of the state of Massachusetts within the last couple of years or so. And I would like to give a shout out, because I know he's watching right now. Bob Malm has done an amazing job of chronicling the conversion of Massachusetts exit numbers from sequential based to mileage based over the last couple of years on his website, malmroads.com.
Or malmroads.net, I believe.
Is it .net or .com?
.net, I believe.
It's one of those.
He is the best North Carolina road geek in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's true. He's also doing a lot of great work for North Carolina interstates, but we'll save that for a couple weeks from now. But yeah, so if you wanted to exit the Pike, exit 10 is...
And go to the Lee outlets.
Lee outlets.
Or anything for the next 30 miles.
Yeah, well, this is going to be your last chance to get off for the next 30 miles or so.
Yep.
Also of note, if you are a classical music aficionado like I am, Tanglewood, the summer retreat for the Boston Symphony Orchestra, is located off of exit 10 in nearby Lenox, Massachusetts.
I went to Tanglewood once.
You're a very cultured man, you. I'm very proud of you.
I used to date a music teacher, and she wanted to go.
You know, all right.
Then
Well, she knows what's up.
Yeah, then she moved to Stamford, Connecticut.
Ooh. All right, you were wise to get out of that. Okay.
Yeah, Stamford sucks. I don't think Anthony's listening, so.
No, he's in, I think, Lower Delaware.
Yeah. Stanford sucks.
Westbound traffic sucks.
Yes. That actually sucks.
Yeah, I think there was a truck that went off the road, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Glad we're going eastbound.
Yeah, well,
Thanks,
this is going to be a recurring theme. You're going to see stuff happen in the westbound direction on this video. But fortunately, not much in the eastbound
direction. There you have
direction.
two trucks being assholes.
Yep. Yeah, welcome to Massachusetts, you know. What else would you
that happened in
expect?
Pennsylvania to me.
Okay, so one of the longest gaps between exits on the interstate system exists right here in Massachusetts.
Asterisk on the freeway network because Florida's Turnpike is not an interstate.
Okay, well, it's one of.
I
said one of.
If you allow interstates only, this is even higher up the list, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's one of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So between exits 10 and 41, my math isn't very good, but that's about 30 miles or so.
31 miles.
Yeah. So between here and about a few miles west of Springfield, you have no interchanges. I think you will have another service plaza in the next 30 miles, but that's about it.
Yep.
You will also have the highest elevation point on I-90 east of South Dakota.
And we'll also cross the Appalachian Trail.
Woohoo!
Which I hiked about a mile or so of it this morning.
There you go.
Not in Massachusetts, in near Pauling in Dutchess County.
That's true, yeah.
And
gentlemen, the floor is yours for the next 30 miles.
Yep.
I don't know
what do you want? Gribble Nation.
Yes, let's talk about Gribble Nation for a few minutes.
Yeah, so I did a number of updates recently the past few weeks. Lots of stuff on covered bridges. But some of the things that I would like to point out, I did a update yesterday on the Equina Bay Bridge, which is...
I pronounce it
Equina. It's Equina, actually. I'm sorry, Equina. It's in Newport, Oregon. It's on US 101. It is one of the most photographed bridges in Oregon, and is also one of my favorite bridges anywhere. So I just posted that link. The other one that I wanted to point out is a road in New York. It's called the Preemption Road. It actually follows an old survey line from the end of the 18th century when they were plotting out, basically, acreage and settlements, in western New York, and that has an interesting story to it, and that's actually worth checking out as well. I mean, there's a road that follows one of the lines, and it's called the Preemption Road. So I'm going to post that. I believe we also just passed the overpass for the Appalachian Trail. There's a little parking area on Route 20 about a mile north of the Mass Pike, and that is something if you're in the area and you want to view an interstate in a different way. Yeah, why not take a hike down the Appalachian Trail? You can tell people you saw your Argentinian mistress while you were actually just getting photos of
I forgot about that.
I never forget about that. That's a reference that comes up. I actually use that guy's name when I try to make anonymous donations.
Anonymous donations?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to talk about exit 2A now or save it?
We can talk about it now.
A little bit. I would say after we get past Oklahoma.
We can talk about it now because there are so many different potential locations for them that we probably have already passed one.
Yeah, I've heard the main one that I've heard for an exit 2A is in Blanford, which is I'd say about halfway between Lee and Westfield.
Yeah, a while ago they floated a few different options, and I think the westernmost one of them was actually not terribly far west. I think it was at the western 8 and 20 area by aptly named Jacob's Pillow.
Yeah.
But
well, it's also near the Jacob's Ladder Trail, which is one of the names of US 20 in Western Mass, basically from Westfield to Lee.
We'll be passing that area soon. That was one that was proposed. I believe they did not propose one on the east side of Beckett, which would have made the most sense. But that would have been the southern continuation of Mass 8 from US 20. That would be much closer to halfway and would serve traffic. I guess there's really nothing on 8 though, let's be fair.
Not till you get to Pittsfield.
Now, as you said, Blanford was another one they've been looking at. So there's not a lot of roads in there, but there's enough. And I'm in favor of it being roughly halfway between, which would really put it at that Algerie Road is apparently what it's called. But that would be roughly halfway. So.
And we should clarify that when we say exit 2A, we're not obviously if the exit was built today, it would not be numbered 2A. Yeah, this was a plan to build an exit between exits 2 and exits 3 back during the sequential exit number days.
Right.
It was much easier to call it 2A because we knew that's what it would be.
Right.
And the other thing too is basically one reason why they would build such an exit is for emergency services. Let's say if there's an accident about halfway between Lee and Westfield, and they need to, basically bring in an ambulance.
You're gonna die.
Yeah.
Wow.
But basically, for emergency purposes, it's a lot easier to bring in an ambulance if you have a shorter distance between exits.
It's not like Florida's Turnpike, which is what I mentioned before. By the way, don't just limit it to interstates. They have 41 miles. Then they have 2 interchanges, then they have 43 miles. Well, in those 84 miles of no interchanges, there's nothing else there.
It's literally nothing.
Here, every so often you've got cross streets. There's not a lot here, but at least there are roads, there are developments, there's potentially reasons to put an interchange. They just have never settled on one being right because either you're pleasing the people of Beckett or you're pleasing the people of Blanford, and the other ones who get pissed off that it's not close enough to them. And
Oklahoma, where basically it's the highest point of I-90 east of Oklahoma, South Dakota, which is somewhere near the Missouri River.
Which is like Tacoma, but not as cool.
And much smaller.
And so it goes without saying, I guess, that this is the highest elevation point on the Mass Pike. What we just
it's all downhill from here.
It is.
Sorry, folks.
Well, we got Boston still to come, so it's definitely
shit flows
downhill.
And there's no city shittier. That's a sports reference. Don't worry.
Spoken like a true grad of a university from Boston, Massachusetts.
I was not in Boston. Never lived for 1 minute in Boston.
Cambridge.
Yeah, that's different.
I apologize.
It's much different.
I'm sorry.
Cambridge is all Yankees fans.
And it's more studious.
Doug, did you talk about all the Gribble Nation stuff you wanted to talk about?
I mentioned that briefly, then I segued right into the Appalachian Trail stuff.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about that one windmill?
114 miles to Boston.
There was a windmill.
So, basically I was mentioning...
Hooray, windmills!
The Equina Bay Bridge in Oregon and also the Preemption Road.
Yeah, because those are your two latest
two
offerings on the blog,
recent
right?
ones that are... And I also kind of said, I did a lot of covered bridge updates.
Alps Road has given up all hope of ever updating anything. Don't mind him.
Boo.
Boo.
Yeah, so instead you're here tonight.
I'm here.
This is your update, right?
My update is roads. Woo, roads. Never seen roads. I've got too much going on in other areas of life. But at least, unlike the last year, well, not year, but at least unlike the last 5 or 6 months when I didn't update because life was terrible, I'm not updating right now because life is too interesting. So it's an improvement.
That's okay.
Yep.
I hope that life continues to be too interesting for me to update.
You do you, man.
The point is to stop doing me. All our under 18 viewers should tune out now.
Son of a bitch.
I'd like to find a happy medium.
That is not what I was going for, by the way, but okay. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, you work at your own pace, right? You update as often as you want to update. At this point, you have
of solid stick-to-itiveness and
but at this point, you don't have to do jack shit anymore. You can do whatever the hell you want.
You can hire a hot busted intern.
Yeah. I know a guy who lives in Connecticut who might be able to help out with that. What am I doing? See, you suck. You know that? Come on. What have I done on Gribble Nation?
You're not Gribble Nation. You're Roadway Whiz.
You know what?
He has a place in Gribble Nation.
I've been offered a place. It doesn't make me Gribble Nation.
Well, that's because you didn't accept it. Whose fault is that?
If I don't have enough time to update my own website, what hope can I do to you?
I don't know.
Well, I always say it ebbs and it flows.
It does. Adam is an expert of saying, you do stuff when you have time, and
or interest, or
if something captivates you and you get a spurt of creative energy, then you knock something out right then,
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I did with my most recent blog article on a bridge in Salem County, New Jersey. Because I visited this bridge over Thanksgiving weekend, and it's a bridge that I had heard about from the likes of the two folks who I'm sitting with right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll throw a link up to that in the chat.
So I visited that bridge for the first time this over Thanksgiving weekend, and it's an amazing structure. It's kind of like lost in the middle of nowhere in the marshes outside of Salem, and it's really an interesting structure that's been abandoned for about 30 years.
Yep.
So it's just kind of sitting there in a rotten, decayed fashion, but there's still a lot of charm about it. And I wrote that article in about an hour, and I put everything together for it right then and there, because I'm like, yep, I know I want to write about this.
Yeah.
And I that happens a lot with me. I don't really know necessarily what I'm going to want to write about, but I know when I see it that's something, I have to say something about this.
Another toll gantry.
Yeah.
This is the gantry between exits 10 and 41.
Yeah, this is
right
essentially in Blanford right now.
Yeah.
So you'll see at the Blanford, there's a maintenance facility, and then there'll be a Blanford rest area.
Yeah, we have another rest area coming up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the subject of blog posts, I never know what I'm gonna want to write about day to day. It's just something that I'm in the mood for on a particular day.
So I know that Adam follows. He'll write things he'll write things down of what he wants to work on, then he'll follow that list. I think Tom does something similar. I just kind of use the method of kind of throwing a dart at a dartboard idea, where it's like, what do I want to work on? I'll just kind of pick something.
Adam will pitch ideas to me. I'll say, do I want to write about this road or that road, or do I want to do Carolina Crossroads or whatever page? I'm just like, you want to do them both, so just do one today, do the other one tomorrow or next week, or whatever. Right? It's all interesting. We want to hear about it all. Whichever one interests you today, do it today. Do the other one next.
I do want to work on more of my New York material this winter.
Yeah.
Of which I have a disgustingly large amount of.
Will there be some website weekends for this?
We can plan this, yeah.
I'm sure this can be coordinated, yeah.
To all of our YouTube viewers, if you're interested in joining us for a website weekend, first we have to make sure that you're not actually a serial killer. So drop us a line with references.
That disqualifies most people, I think.
Yeah. Well, that would disqualify at least one person in this room.
The website weekend is, if you remember, like LAN parties, the concept is the same, but it's much cooler because it's us.
Yes.
And
much more alcohol with us.
Yeah, more alcohol, better food.
That's when I show up.
Yeah.
But just to kind of...
It's a nice chill thing to do during a winter weekend.
Yeah, well, most of us don't travel a whole lot during the winter. This is our period to kind of catch up on the year prior.
God knows we're not athletic enough to ski.
Yeah, well, we know that's true.
I've curled for many a winter.
Well, you are an avid curler. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the Blanford Plaza, by the way. But yeah, since I've become a regular contributor on Gribble Nation, I think that's kind of how I've operated. I tried the route of having an outline of like topics that I wanted to talk about, and I ended up throwing that out right away because it's very difficult for me to actually structure things that way. I feel like when I write my best articles, they just come spur of the moment.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I do.
Yeah.
Because I might have an outline, but it's like, I don't feel like writing about New York today. I feel like writing about Illinois or something like that.
Well, yeah, right.
I just wanted to point out
which is actually what I did earlier in November. I actually wrote about a couple of things I saw along the National Road in Illinois last year.
Yeah.
Like Vandalia, which was the western end. Apparently it ends at the old State House where Abraham Lincoln, this is what Abraham Lincoln was serving in the Illinois state legislature. So if you're into Honest Abe, that's a good thing to read about. And also Casey, Illinois, which is basically, I want to say it's the town where they have all like the world's largest things, like the world's largest rocking chair and things like that.
And you put this in a blog article, right?
Blog article. I'll link this.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
I would like.
Would you like to say something
before we get off this downgrade? I would just like to point out how any of our viewers who either drive trucks or live west of the Mississippi would laugh at the concept that this is a steep downgrade.
Yeah.
It's a steep downgrade and a long downgrade.
I have driven I-8 into San Diego. That is a steep downgrade and a long downgrade.
That is a fun downgrade.
This is you downshift by 1 gear and you're okay.
Yeah.
That is a truckers are going 10 with their hazards on because if it's either that or they fly off the side.
Yeah.
That you drive enough roads in the West.
Yeah.
This is nothing.
The West has a lot of interesting roads. I-8 is one that I've driven, as you know, and that's one of my favorite drives anywhere.
There are just so many downgrades in the West that this is nothing.
Yeah.
It amuses me that they have to have that many warnings about truckers. Check your brake. You're not going to use your brakes on this.
It's like,
road.
dude, screw you. Like
the air resistance is going to slow you down on this.
Yeah. Like the downgrades you're talking about on I-8 with
6%, 7% for like 8 miles, 10 miles.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Well, I posted on the Roadway Whiz page not long ago about Dead Man Pass on I-84 out in Oregon, and that's like a 6 or 7% over a few
I've
miles.
went down it basically westbound.
That's legit.
The westbound on 84 through that pass is a really cool drive.
I think another name for it is Cabbage Hill.
I think that's right. Yeah.
So I don't think they're growing cabbage in that.
I tell you, there are some drives out west that blow any drive in the east out of the water as far as scenery is concerned.
Like
the thing that stands out to me about the I-8 drive in California is that you reach the crest of a hill and you start descending, and you think that what you're seeing on the horizon is like clouds or fog layer. It's the Pacific Ocean, like 50 miles ahead of you.
Yep.
Yeah, like that is. There's nothing that ever comes close to that in the east.
Yeah.
When you're on Route 3 and you can see the skyline. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, Route 3 is neat.
Yeah.
You know, as far as natural beauty is concerned.
I know I'm
Yeah.
losing this
Yeah.
one. Don't
Well,
worry.
wait till you drive I-70 west to Denver.
Well, that is one that I still need to do. Yeah.
Oh my God, that would be you drive it and you would turn around and say, tomorrow we're doing a live drive of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the opposite direction, which is still incredible.
Potentially, yeah. And that is one of those drives where you could drive it and be like, well, I might as well quit because what else is there for me to see that would be cooler than this?
That
you know?
you do that, assuming they've got that open again with all the rock slides. But
Yeah.
Glenwood Canyon was open when I was through there in October. There was a
Okay.
couple of spots where they had closed the lane.
yeah, it was all. I mean, I drove before that happened, but yeah, that's one of those highways that nothing else looks like that.
Mhm.
Not interstate, state highway, anything. You will never find that combination of civil engineering plus natural beauty.
Yeah.
And Colorado's one thing, like west of Denver, where you have all the mountains and basically you go through like all the curves and thing like that. And then you have another awesome drive on I-70 in Utah.
I've heard 70 in Utah.
East
is
Nevada.
very good.
Yeah, it's better than regular Nevada. No, sorry, it's not as good as regular Nevada.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that whole stretch from Denver to Cove Fort is quite an interesting
Yes.
experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is one that I still have to do. You know, Denver is one of the few major cities I still haven't been to, so we'll have to see if I can fix that. Although I think
you will have a lot of material from that.
Well, Denver by itself, and
Yes.
then all the stuff obviously outside of that.
Oh yes.
But yeah, we'll see.
Get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to thank our redneck lover contributor for helping Dan get to Denver.
Yeah, helping the Roadway Whiz Travel Fund.
Yes.
But yeah, there aren't. As I look at the to-do list, there's not a whole lot that I have left to accomplish, really.
Denver, Minneapolis, you still have to get to, I would think.
Denver's better.
Minneapolis is a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minneapolis has a lot going on for it too. I mean, the scenery. You don't have the scenery that Denver, but you have.
And it has toll lanes.
Well, they both have toll lanes.
Yeah. Denver has an entire toll road.
It does. Yep.
Well-
Minneapolis, all the freeways sort of blend into each other. Colorado, they each have distinct personalities. I would prioritize Denver
Yeah.
from that perspective.
Yeah. Well,
You
can do both, but
It depends how much you like cheese curds.
Whatever.
Yeah, Denver first.
So yeah, it's Denver, it's Minneapolis, it's Atlanta, and then it's Dallas. Those are really the big four that are left.
San Antonio.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to throw the rest of South Texas into the
Austin.
mix, yeah. Really, the only parts of Texas I've been to are Houston and El Paso. Those are it. So
Austin is like you might do that with San Antonio, sort of lump them together, but Austin is really cool.
Well, Austin is a big enough
The
city.
2 or
by
3
itself.
freeways that it has are worth it.
Yeah.
They need another.
Plus, you
10.
can legally go 85 miles an hour on one of them.
Yeah, and then you have
Yeah.
some smaller cities like Omaha and Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa.
Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
The
have a lot
Oklahoma
going
Turnpike
on.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oklahoma's got a ton going on. You could drive 66 between the two, 4-lane divided, old US 66.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
I've only
really
been
great.
to Oklahoma once, but I enjoyed my visit.
It is one of the 50 states, after all.
Yeah.
I like Omaha. If you get there now, you'll find button copy, but interesting roads. Oklahoma's got a lot of interesting roads.
Yeah.
And I know Dan loves driving toll roads and spending lots of money, and you
I
love
do.
Oklahoma for that reason.
I probably would love Oklahoma. Yeah. But you know what it is, too? Like, a lot of people just love to shun Pike toll roads.
Holy shit,
instead
there's
of-
an exit coming up.
Hey, look, we have an exit. Hooray!
Hey! You can leave now.
I forgot what those exit signs looked like in the
Yeah,
last 30
and
miles.
you'll see a little yellow sign, which is basically signifying the old exit number.
Right, yeah. Massachusetts does that on their
Yeah.
signage. Yeah, because when they changed the exit numbers, they pretty much replaced all the signage statewide also while they were at it.
Yeah.
So
Well, at least on any road that would have an exit number.
yeah, so the yellow old exit tab is generally accompanying any.
Did Mass replace exit numbers on 140?
I believe so.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
I have an entire podcast about that.
That's interesting.
There were a few that they didn't replace them on, but
140 seems like the one you wouldn't because it's so random. I gotta look this up now.
there were a couple
you guys
random
go ahead,
ones
talk about
that
cool
were-
stuff while I'm
Yeah,
doing
but
that.
we're passing by exit 41, which is for Westfield,
they
which
did.
is known as the Whip City. I think they made
Whip?
Whip City. Yeah, I think they made
Cool
horse
whip?
and buggy whips. You know, watch
Oh.
me whip, watch me nay nay.
That is cool.
And also there's a college there, Westfield State College, I believe.
Okay.
And then on the other end, you can go to the Hamptons of Massachusetts. You know, basically East Hampton, Southampton, Northampton. There's a West Hampton in Massachusetts as
They
well.
have all of them?
They have all of them.
That might be the
Wow.
only example of this in the United States of all four directions being represented.
They don't have a Binghamton though.
They do not have a Binghamton nor a Bridgehampton.
That's too bad.
Do they have Hampton roads?
They do not have Hampton roads. They have.
There's no roads?
So we can't come their house.
You cannot come to their house now.
That's too
Can't
bad.
go 85 on I-366.
Yes. Yeah. So they. But yeah, you can still find a lot of old signs in Massachusetts, but not on like freeways. You basically have to like go on like these like town maintained 2-lane roads, and like you have like the
One
old
lane.
paddle signs, which they kind of like painted like the name of the road on it. I have a lot of pictures of those because I find those incredibly
They're
cool and interesting.
19th century mileposts.
Pretty much, yeah. You can find a lot of stuff on the back roads in Massachusetts. That's one of the things I really like a lot about Massachusetts. And I know that like the section here, you know, basically between New York and Springfield areas, the area of the Massachusetts Turnpike that I've traveled most often because, well, it's the part that's closest to me.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quabbin Reservoir area, you have the ghost towns. And
Yeah, Dana Quarter. Yeah, that's a nice hike.
roads that just randomly disappear into the reservoirs. There's
Oh yeah, right.
a lot to explore there, definitely.
Yeah, and it's definitely, yeah, if you want to get off the main road, yeah, Massachusetts, there's a lot to find.
That's the thing. Like, as far as my experiences with travel,
Just to interrupt, you saw that billboard said use exit 5. Just so you know.
And there,
Just so you know.
that was
Go ahead.
that was
Go
it.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Talk.
Yeah. So like my experiences of travel, as we approach the next exit, which is exit 45 for I-91.
and US 5.
I'm so used to like just staying on the highway and not
Yeah.
getting off the highway, because you find that like the stuff that you blog about and the stuff that everybody likes to talk about,
Tom blogs
more
about that.
more often than not, it's the stuff that's off the interstate. That's the most interesting
that's what
stuff.
interests me the most.
Like I haven't gotten to that part yet, where I've actually come to enjoy like getting off the interstate and just taking the back roads, or even just taking like US 20 across a state or something like that.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that some of that comes with age and experience too. Like
And also, basically what I did is I did like the interstates and like the U.S. routes and state highways first, and then, basically when I ran into those, I started following the local roads. Coming up to the exit for I-91 and US 5, it's the first exit for Springfield, which has the National Basketball Hall of Fame.
It's a hell of a town.
It has the Springfield Armory, which is a National Historic Site. Holyoke is actually where volleyball was invented.
It's
Holyoke.
Holyoke, yes. So basketball was invented in Springfield, and volleyball was invented in Holyoke. So you have a couple of sports that were invented right here in what they call the Pioneer Valley of Massachusetts, basically the Connecticut River Valley area. But basically that exit is if you're trying to go to like I-91, that's kind of like a double trumpet situation too, where you basically trumpet onto an access road. You can take one direction to go to I-91, and then the other direction to US 5. Lots of tire treads on this road.
Yeah,
I've noticed.
that's a very interesting junction there. If you try to follow the ramps from here to 91 and vice versa.
I find it interesting that they have this sign at 65 miles an hour.
Oh, and Springfield
This
is
road.
also the birthplace of Dr. Seuss.
Is it really?
And there is like a little like park that like they have like a Dr. Seuss sculpture garden, something like that. I've been there.
90 miles to
Oh,
Boston.
the places you'll go.
That's it. All the places you'll go on Interstate 90.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to mention that we will be passing Interstate 391 in the next mile, but you will not see an exit sign for it or any mention of it on the Mass Pike because this is one of the few freeway-to-freeway crossovers that happens in this part of the country without an interchange.
You say few, but in this part of the country, I think you'll find most of them. Well, mainly in Commonwealths, you'll find them.
Like Pennsylvania's big on that.
Yeah,
it's a Commonwealth.
And we also
if you want to restrict it to New England.
Yeah, and we also crossed the Connecticut River at some point.
We did like a half mile ago.
Yeah, when I said why is it 65 miles an hour, because there were no shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah, that Connecticut River Bridge is original to the Turnpike still, I think, from the 50s. But yeah, we did pass over I-391 back there too, and you didn't know anything about it because there's no exit for it. Yep. There's one other freeway-to-freeway junction that I can think of in New England that's like that, where they
lack of junction.
Where there's two freeways that cross each other without an interchange, and that would be in Connecticut. Other than that, that's the only one that I can think of. At least in New England.
You're thinking about 10 and...
I'm thinking about...
40.
40 and Wilbur-Cross. Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the exit for Chicopee, which I'll give you a little hint. If you're taking the Mass Pike, exit here for cheap gas.
And button copy.
Yeah, on 33 there's button copy. Yeah. But yeah, that's my hint. Yeah, basically this exit is where you'll find cheap gas.
Yep. And it is the only cheap gas and the only... Wait.
And you also find Jesus Chicken.
No, okay, yeah, they replaced that.
What?
No, this had, until recently, had the last button copy mainline sign on the Mass Pike.
Yeah.
Well, it was in the westbound direction.
It was right, but I think that's been replaced also.
Yeah, those were all replaced, yeah. I was fortunate enough to come through here a couple years before this was filmed, and I was able to get pictures of that stuff before it was taken down. Who says I wasn't?
You should have been filming back then.
Who says I wasn't?
You just said you weren't. You said a couple years before you filmed it.
Well, a couple years before I filmed this. What we're watching tonight. Eat your words, young man.
Eat my shorts.
Full. I'll save them for later.
So the Pike is pretty much bypassing the north side of central Springfield. Like all the real urban action is to the south of us right now.
91 and 291.
Yeah.
Like 91, you'll pass right by downtown, MGM Springfield. There's actually there's an interesting bridge in Springfield, the Memorial Bridge.
Yeah. And more interesting from underneath, I would say. But
yeah, and of course it's nicely decorated.
You also have the stub west end of the 57 freeway in the Springfield area.
Which basically, the stub end, and then the east end where you have the rotary.
Glorified rotary.
Yeah.
Oh yes, because in Massachusetts they're called rotaries. Everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, 5 has a couple of those on its weird little freeway section, which is also very much worth the drive.
Yeah.
Springfield is cool. We could totally have a road meet there, but I think we've had a couple.
We had a road meet there in 2010.
Yeah.
How many meets have been?
As they have said in the meets thread, 11 or 12 years. It's about time you could have another one. You'd be okay.
Yeah. So somebody. Yeah. It's okay with somebody that you can.
Yes. As long as somebody says it's okay, you can do it.
That's right.
I say it's okay for everything.
I should have messaged that guy before announcing the date for the Philly meet. You know what I'm talking about.
Is it okay?
Hey, I was thinking about hosting it on this weekend. Is that okay with you? Why, no, you piece of shit. Okay, well.
Oh.
You're used to hearing that anyway. Oh, it's something happened on the west side.
Yeah.
Nice segue, Steve. Yeah, well, as I said before, you're going to see stuff happen in the westbound direction today, so...
Maybe they were trying to go to the headquarters of Friendly's, which is actually right around here in Wilbraham, Mass. I know if you're going westbound, you'll see the Friendly's logo in shrubbery.
Huh.
Now, I would like to bring up a tolling question to the two of you, because this is something that was mentioned in the live chat. there isn't a section of the Mass Pike anymore that is toll-free. Is that correct?
No, there are still
like west of.
There are still a couple of interchange pairs, but they've changed which ones those are.
So like
there are still 1 or 2 segments I believe you can drive on for free.
Well, just deal with the section west of 128/95.
I would have to look this up to know. I don't.
See, I don't think that. So there used to be a period of time where the Mass Pike from Springfield west was toll free, but then when they converted to all electronic tolling, they got rid of that.
Yeah.
So none of the Pike out that way is toll free anymore.
There was a gantry between exits 3 and 4. There was a gantry between exits 7 and 8. So from 4 to 7, you have free use of the Mass Pike.
You do?
Yes. There's a gantry between 9 and 10, and between 11 and 11A. So from 10 to 11, it's free.
So in Worcester.
Worcester.
So that's from what, 395 to 146? I think that's what that is.
I just lost containment here.
You lost containment.
Oh, I appear to be over New Jersey now.
You're doing as well as the Department of Health right now.
I am trying to navigate their map of toll gantry locations.
Yeah. Because the one notable free section of the Pike in the Newton area inside of 128, they got rid of that.
Gone, yes.
Yeah.
That one's so you no longer have that, and because exit 16 is only facing to the east, you can't get from there to 95 either.
Well, that's a 128 exit, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, it's.
By the way, you're using the old exit numbering.
That's what's referenced here, but.
Okay.
Yeah, basically Springfield and that one area from. What? Oh, these are interchanges, not gantries. I see. Right. Springfield and Worcester. That's it. That's what you get.
Yeah. Okay. Well, old exit 10 is 290. And then
and then you have 10A, which is 146,
which would be whatever the next one is. Yeah.
Or that's. Oh, I guess that's 11. Okay.
Yeah, bear with us, folks. We're trying to figure out what.
I'm always going from 84 to 290, so I never get to take advantage.
Yeah, why not take a break for safety's sake?
Yeah, and have a giant McDonald's logo fall on your head.
Whee!
Would you like fries with that?
Yeah, but if you're on some of the free freeways in Massachusetts, basically near like rest areas, parking areas, they'll have take a break for safety's sake.
I will note that one benefit of this is that now everything from the Alston-Brighton interchange east, which is old 18, 19, 20, is free. So you can now actually get out there without paying a toll, whereas previously that was the toll. 18 was the eastbound toll, 19 was the main line, and 20 was the westbound. So without that, you now can use the entire Mass Pike through Boston for free.
No, you can't, because there are gantries there.
Only
now.
West of 18.
West of 18.
Yeah, west of the Alston, Brighton, Cambridge interchange.
There's a gantry east of there.
Not according to this map.
Well, your map is wrong.
There's
a gantry in front of Fenway Park. As we'll
clearly
see.
There isn't. Wow. What those gantries on the Pike are secretly doing.
Well, we'll see when we get there, and you tell me what you think. Because there's definitely another gantry east of Alston. But we'll deal with that when we get to Boston itself.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Hey, I've heard that line once or twice.
All right, looking at this, I again do not see anything east of ABC interchange.
All right. Well, anyway,
I only know what this is telling me here.
So. We're east of. We're about at the halfway point of tonight's video. We are now east of Springfield. See, Steve, here's a nice gantry for you.
Yeah, east of Springfield.
Yeah. It's nice to have you with us. This is our Season 3 kickoff special. If you're joining us from wherever the heck you're watching from tonight, we thank you very much for tuning in live.
We'd like to thank Doug for pizza and garlic knots.
Yeah, we have to thank Doug for the catering work that he did tonight.
Yep.
Great job by him.
Yeah. I got food from a place called Pizza and Stuff.
And he ordered pizza and stuff.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's literally the name of the restaurant, Pizza and Stuff.
Yeah. And so Doug provided the catering for tonight. I'm providing the video, and Steve is also here.
I'm just an asshole.
Yeah, well, he comes from Jersey, folks. I can't really do anything about that. So, we are in the midst of traveling the Mass Pike eastbound. We're somewhere between Springfield and Worcester right now. I'd say we're entering another lull in the action right now. Would you say that's fair to say?
Yeah.
This is why I got a beer. I encourage our viewers to do the same, especially if you're under 21.
I mean, there's another exit before we get to I-84, which is when the real fun starts.
Well, why don't we use this period right now for questions from the audience? I think that's fair to say. If you have anything that you want to...
wrestling competition?
If you... excuse me, what?
Skee-ball?
If there's anything that you would like to ask our panel,
Cribbage?
and that would be that could be anything related to Roadway Whiz or Gribble Nation or Alps Roads, any of those three sites, we'd be happy to take your questions in the live chat below. Feel free to submit them, and if
I would say we'd be angry to take them.
We'd be
that should
some of us would be happy to take them. Others would be angry to take them.
I think it should
way.
encourage people. If it makes us angry, you'll want to ask it now.
So, we'll be happy to take your questions in the live chat for the next.
What's my favorite part of the
so.
Mass Pike? The free parts.
It's funny you should say that. You know, I never would have guessed that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the abandoned parts are cool too.
Yeah.
I will say, historically speaking, my favorite part of the Mass Pike was the tunnels at Interchange 22 that I walked into one evening to photograph button copy, saw a dead body, and decided I'm just going to photograph my signs and not tell anyone I was down there. As a college student, I figured I'd get in more trouble if I reported the dead body, and then they said, well, why were you walking? So I stayed anonymous. He's already dead. Nothing's going to bring him back.
To see more dead body pictures, go to alpsroads.net in the Massachusetts section.
You'd be surprised I didn't photograph the body. You will see the signs I photographed on my Mass Pike page 20 years later.
The actual button copy pictures.
Yes, from that ramp.
So now if I go and look at that ramp on your site, it's that ramp?
Eastbound exit 22, I believe.
So, Prue Tunnel.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. In the tunnel.
See, now when we go through the Prue Tunnel on this video in about an hour, it's gonna be the
We're gonna have a moment of silence.
It's gonna be the Steve Alpert Dead Body Memorial Tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're approaching the exit for Palmer and Ware.
Where? What?
The town is called Ware.
Where is it?
It's north of the Mass Pike. It's where 32 meets 9. The nickname for Ware is the town that
we don't know.
The town that can't be licked because there's a lot of flooding from I want to say the hurricane in 1938, which basically had
which or where?
Yeah, devastated a lot of places in New England.
But we don't know where.
I think basically the storm surge basically did a lot of damage to Providence. And I think that led to the construction of the Quabbin Reservoir.
Where do they have problems? This is where.
Yes.
All right.
And Palmer is not named after Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Palmer.
Arnold Palmer?
Or no, Arnold Palmer. He's from Latrobe.
Is it named after his drink? Solid.
Yeah.
Solid question, but no.
Doug makes a good observation that the 1938 hurricane was very far-reaching in its effect, and I would also mention that it led to the creation of the Providence flood control system.
Yeah.
On the Providence River there downtown. That was built in the aftermath of the Long Island hurricane because of the storm surge. I think they had 10 feet of water in downtown Providence during that storm. So yeah, that was a huge event. That was not just confined to Long Island by any stretch. And Rhode Island had a landfalling tropical storm this past season for the first time in a long time, maybe even since then. With Henri and
Westerly.
Yeah, it made landfall in Westerly, but they had hurricane force wind gusts in Newport with that storm. Wow. So yeah, that's the storms like that don't often come up this way, but when they do, they tend to be pretty nasty.
You would have thought that Newport residents would have paid off the storm to go somewhere else.
I'm sure they tried. Questions from the live chat. Let's spend a few minutes on that.
Sweet.
How's the Subaru doing? John Canada Productions wants to know that. Car's doing really well. I bought it in February of this past year. I've put a lot of miles on it already. I'm on track to put about 35,000 on it in the first 12 months. It's been really reliable. It runs great. I love everything about it. It's a new car. It's a 2020 model year, but it's not, full of all the really weird gadgets that you find in a lot of other new cars these days, which I like. I like to just, be in control of everything and not have, all the automotive systems, yelling at me every 5 seconds. And the ones that I can control, I made sure I turned off in the first day of ownership. I'm like, all right, I don't want this on, I don't want that on, So, I have a car that I like, and it reminds me a lot of the Toyota that I had before. It's a similar kind of car. It's a 5-door with a hatchback. And it's good for what I do. I do a lot of work in the field as an engineer, so I like having the hatchback in the back to keep plan sheets and work gear and stuff like that. And as I've said, it runs really well. It's been very reliable so far. Knock on wood. Hopefully, it'll continue to be reliable for the next several years. Thank you.
And as a reminder, Subarus are super cool and really fun to drive.
Just don't get a white one unless you're a lesbian, I think it is.
That's the Forester.
Forester? Oh, only the Forester, okay.
No, I drive the Impreza, not the...
I once knew a lesbian who drove a white Forester.
I think that was...
You realize you're feeding into the stereotype.
That is the stereotype, yeah. Right.
You're not helping things.
Yeah, I made sure not to get a Forester for that reason.
No, just the white ones. Other colors are okay.
No, well, the version that I've heard is just as Foresters
that
in
was
general,
white.
But...
I think there was a song or something.
I drive a white-colored CRV, but that's because
that's okay.
That's what they had.
That's a CRV.
Entering Brimfield, which has, it has a bunch of antique stores and hats.
Louisa Ma asks, since when have you been making videos about interstates and the states? Well, I've had this channel I'm in my 12th year now.
Confrontational.
I don't think it's confrontational.
Since when have you been making videos?
When have I been making videos?
No, since when? Since when have you been making videos?
When the hell have you been making road videos?
The fuck?
I'm in my 12th year. And I haven't gotten tired of it yet. So hopefully I've got another 12 years ahead of me at least.
I've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah, you've got a few more years on me. Well, both of you do, frankly.
Doug's got more than I do.
I'm also older than both of you.
I discovered MTR roughly 20 years ago this month, so this is my 20th anniversary.
I propose a toast.
20th anniversary of being involved with highways.
Hooray, Steve!
Howdy.
Woo! Woo. Cheers.
Prost.
Perestroika.
And yes, we actually did just toast, by the way.
It is all thanks to me having so few social graces that I was kicked out of a fraternity.
Did you really?
If not for that, I wouldn't be here now.
No shit.
No, that's what did it.
You didn't tell me this story.
They kicked me out of a fraternity. I had to move back into a dorm, move next to another road geek, and the rest is history.
Oh, you didn't tell me this story during the video, the interview that we had.
I didn't tell you the story for these listeners. No.
See, you complain about the interview that I do with you, but then you don't tell me the good stories that would make it a good interview.
I think I told you this story off air. Because there's much more mystery and intrigue than I'm willing to share with general.
I only found out about the dead body today.
Yeah, I forgot about the dead body until I got into the favorite section of Mass Pike, and I was like, oh yeah, the dead body story.
See, if there's one thing you folks, you viewers out there should take from this episode, it's the dead body story. Okay, don't mind all the other stuff that we're gonna tell you in the next hour or so. Okay, you know.
Yeah, if you ever need to kill a hobo, I suggest the Mass Pike Tunnel is the place to do it.
I have a question for you, Steve, in the live chat. Are you ready? Ryan Earls asks.
I know him.
Yeah, I'll bet you do. Why is Steve Alps always angry? LOL.
Is it angry or angry? Need to specify.
It's angry.
He's wrong then, because I'm always angry, just like Mr. Angry.
All right, so well, maybe should we tell the story about that inside joke?
I don't even know. Like, it started with you, and we just glommed onto it.
I know the story. Do you want to tell the story?
I don't know the story.
Okay, so
I don't even know where this came from.
All right, so true story. One night, I was drunk as a mother, and I was browsing people's Facebook profiles, and I just happened to see something that you posted, Steve.
Okay.
I don't even know what the hell it was. It might have been like a profile picture update or something like that. And I just thought, that picture is fucking hilarious. I'm just gonna like haha react.
Yeah.
Your picture react. And then I went on your page and I was like, like everything that you posted tonight is fucking hilarious. So I'm just gonna haha react to everything on your profile for like the last month or something.
I didn't know where that came from, but that's where it came. Okay.
It came from something like that. Yeah.
Just being drunk. Okay.
Me being drunk. Yeah. And then you were like, Steve literally was like, dude, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just ha-haing everything that you post on Facebook. And you were like, okay, well, whatever.
Do it back to you, yeah.
Yeah, and then somewhere along the way, I don't know this part, but somehow it evolved from being...
I know this part.
Well, somehow it evolved from being everything is hilarious to everything is angry.
Yeah. But, so what happened was you were ha-haing on my posts. There's someone else who, for the benefit of this being a broadcast, I won't name names, but she would sometimes...
All right, that narrows it down.
She would like a lot of my posts, or she would react to posts. So when she saw that you were ha-haing everything, she started ha-haing everything, and then I said, no, you can't have it. Now that she's doing it, it's not cool anymore. You have to come up with something new.
Oh, that's right.
And then you angry reacted. This works much better.
We had a consultation between the two of us, and we agreed on a new course of action. And the new course of action was that we have to be angry about everything.
So I'm just sad about everything.
So Doug and I have by the way, a spin-off of this is that Doug and I are sad about everything on Facebook.
But to close this down, with the new algorithms for groups, if you angry react posts, they don't get as wide a distribution. So because of that, if Roadway Wiz posts something, I will react it because that increases the distribution. Yeah. I will only angry react your own personal post because that.
Which I don't give a shit about.
But that doesn't affect any. Yeah, it's only the groups that.
I didn't know that the algorithm has gotten smart about.
And
stuff
I think
like
they do that with pages as well.
No, it is specifically for pages and groups. Yeah, it's.
So they just can't react to anything for that.
They started off with every reaction improved its reach, but then after a while they looked at it and they said, all right, angry reacts mean people don't like it, so we won't share it as much. Where in reality, angry reacts means we like this, we want to see more of it. It makes us angry that Facebook would dare take this away from us.
Well, that's Facebook for you.
Yeah.
Didn't you also join like everyone angry reacts everything, and then they like, well, you have some anger problems or something like that?
That group was the place name.
It still is.
The place name was Angery something. Like it was an angry something club of some kind. Yeah. So I joined the group and I angry reacted everything. And I would like comment on all the posts saying, this post makes me so angry. And I would post like angry emojis and all that stuff. And they kicked me out of the group, and I'm very upset about that.
You're very angry about that.
I was very angry about being in the angry group, but they didn't appreciate that, apparently.
Legit react.
That's right. I was very upset about that.
I remember that 4-day period before they kicked me.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually private messaged me and everything, and they were like legit angry that I was angry.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, don't you understand what you call this group?
Like, I understand perfectly.
You did.
So yeah, it just, anyway. So that's the side tangent about the angry stuff and all that. So hopefully that clears that up.
I'm very angry that you asked that.
That's a good question.
I'm angry. I'm angry about it.
It killed a few miles.
As noted, I like being angry, so.
Well, let's see. I saw another couple of questions I wanted to talk about here.
Legit ones? Oh.
Legit ones, yeah.
Oh boy. That's less fun.
Let's see here. When will they officially... Scarmy wants to ask. When will they officially rename the Mario Cuomo Bridge? Talk to the New York State Legislature. Next question. We talked about the stubs on the Mass Pike before, right?
Yes.
We talked about the one in West Stockbridge.
Yes.
That was just the little ramp that comes into 102.
You really
there.
need to go on 102 and park to see that one.
Yeah.
Which you can easily access from exit B3 in New York.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what? That reminds me, because when I was out that way one day, we were installing one of those, variable message boards with the solar panels and all that cute stuff. Yeah. I don't remember if it was you, Doug, or somebody else tipped me off to the fact that there were old stubs there still.
It was either Josh or I.
It was probably you. Just because you're on the panel tonight, and I feel like giving you credit for it. But yeah, 102 is right. You could pretty much walk to where we were working from there, and so I went and I checked out that area for the first time, and yeah, you can still kind of see where there used to be some pavement there, and where the road used to come to an end.
There definitely was pavement when I was there.
Yeah.
So there isn't now. It's just grass.
I think there still is. Yeah.
Okay.
There still is some stuff.
I do back on the topic of the video. Now that we're getting close to I-84, it is signed Hartford, Connecticut, NY City. You're heading east on I-90. NY City. First of all, you shouldn't be on this road to begin with, but second of all, you should have gotten off in Springfield at the very latest.
You should have stayed on the You should have stayed on the New York State Thruway.
Well,
why
if you're
are
in
you
Hartford,
here?
that's one thing.
But why would you go even from exit former 8? Why would you go 18 miles east to double back towards Hartford?
Because you want to stop the old Sturbridge Village first.
But then Sturbridge should be on the overhead sign.
Well,
instead of NY City.
It should have said
It's on a brown
Sturbridge.
sign instead.
Heading west, Hartford and NY City make all the sense in the world to post. Heading east, I think they just mirrored westbound instead of trying to think of why people should ever take this exit heading east.
Yeah.
Really, you would take this exit going to Sturbridge or points like Auburn on US 20 nearby.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of local places on US 20 that people go. There's a very, very good barbecue restaurant just west of that interchange.
They should have put that on the control sign.
Definitely.
or you can take it north to go to places like Sterling or Holden. Or...
But after somewhere around Vernon in Connecticut, probably not even Vernon, but your use for 84 from this exit lasts about 20 miles, and after that you're better off taking a different exit.
Yeah. I should mention that this is the eastern terminus of the Eastern Interstate 84. Which
the real one.
The real one, well, I mean...
This one was always 84, the western one was not.
No, this was I-86 at one time.
Well, this piece of it was.
Do we want to go down the I-86 rabbit hole while
Let's
we're
go
here?
down the I-86 rabbit hole.
All right, let's do that.
Go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead.
No, I don't really want to go down the rabbit hole. But I said now the fun has started.
I do want to go down the rabbit hole.
Well, so I'll say that...
Well, tomorrow is
the Eastern Interstate 84, as it stands, runs from here westward to Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Almost.
And
Dunmore?
there are two different 84s. There's this one, and then there's the western one, which stretches through Utah, Idaho, and
80N.
Oregon, which was originally designated 80N until they changed it to 84 in I think the early 80s, something like that.
Late 70s.
Late 70s, something like that.
Generally, late 70s around the country.
Now, it's worth noting that the stretch of Interstate 84 between East Hartford, Connecticut, and Sturbridge was also originally designated as I-86.
False.
Well, it was 84, and then it was 86.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it was 84 again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 84, you continue. You continue.
I was just about out of information.
Okay.
You can continue from here.
So it was originally, that was 84, but the whole time they were looking at the Hartford to Providence interstate that was never built. At some point after I-84 was designated, they flipped it from Sturbridge to Providence and made this piece of it 86. I don't have the information on hand as to why they made that decision instead of keeping 84 where it wasn't, calling that other thing 82 or calling it 384 like it is now. But they made the decision to flip 84 to that planned route, and thus the rest of it from the 384 split on became 86 and was signed as such. Whether any piece of it was signed as 84 prior to that designation split, I couldn't tell you. It happened fairly early on. They may or may not have built segments of it already by that point. But you'll hear a lot about 86 going back to 84, and there are photos online of Connecticut 86 shields. I believe actually Michael Suma gave me one. So you'll see it, and it did in the 70s. They realized, actually maybe even early 80s, they realized they were never going to build that corridor because of local opposition along the way. Rhode Island, I think, was more interested in it than most of the communities in Connecticut. And even then, they still weren't that interested.
Well, Rhode Island couldn't get around the reservoir system west of Providence.
But also Connecticut just wasn't building its pieces either. Like, neither state had enough interest in it.
I mean, they built the section around Willimantic, but...
Yeah, so Connecticut has I-384, it has that US 6 freeway, and it would have probably incorporated the eastern original end of the Connecticut Turnpike, which is now the spur that branches off of 395 and feeds into 6 at the state line.
Yeah, which is a secret route.
695.
695.
Yep.
Rhode Island...
But that's another story for another virtual...
Rhode Island built its US 6 freeway in Providence, which has a stub at the west end, which tells you it was supposed to go further.
Right.
And for a while, that was actually numbered RI-195, which is in itself an oddity because it was meant as part of 84. But so why not number it anything near that? Instead, they numbered it RI-195. It was never... I don't know if they were thinking because it was built along an interstate planned corridor that they would get interstate funding and make it part of I-195, but they clearly never came to be. For at least 20 years after that just became US 6, there was still a RI-195 sign posted on an overpass. Again, Alps Roads features that, and all your best content.
It's a shameless plug right there.
Yeah, absolutely. No shame whatsoever. The other thing I want to point out is the photo I have on my site shows Connecticut 15 along with I-86. And Connecticut 15 now ends where it merges into I-84, but originally followed that corridor that was later upgraded to 84. That was there when they designated I-84 originally, later I-86. So they could have possibly posted that as I-84. They may have just posted as Connecticut 15 prior to it becoming 86.
Yeah, because it was always known as Connecticut 15
it was always
in the early days.
It was always 15.
Yeah.
It was somewhat similar to the Berlin Turnpike, maybe with a few more interchanges like the Wilbur Cross. Upgraded over time. Whether they ever signed 15 as 84 or whether they went straight to 86 in the beginning, I don't know. We don't have any historical evidence that way. But when it hit the Massachusetts border, it became a two-lane road known as Massachusetts Highway 15. That remains as, if you get out of I-84, your first exit in Massachusetts, you'll be on a 50-mile-an-hour road just east of I-84 for a few miles. And that's actually the way to get to Sturbridge. You get out, you follow that a little bit, and then you hang a left and you head up to Sturbridge to that great barbecue place I'm telling you about. There's also relatively cheap gas off exit 1, former exit 1. I think it's exit 3 now, but
I think there's a truck stop there.
Yes.
Like a Pilot or something like that.
So relatively cheap gas, so a good place to stop, catch your breath.
Yeah.
But that road that was Mass 15 was all that there was for a while, and that's what tied into Interchange 9 in the beginning.
Okay.
And then they built I-84 into that, and the rest is history.
Yeah, because I seem to remember seeing pictures of old I-86 shields in Connecticut.
Yep.
Whether it's in the Michael Suma collection or somebody else.
Yeah, that was we know that was posted. The open question is, was I-84 posted prior to that, or was it just a paper designation that was never filled before they made that decision?
Because it was Route 15 originally.
It was 15, and
yeah. So there would have been Route 15 acknowledgments somewhere.
I encourage Michael Suma, who I'm sure is listening to us right now because of his avid interest in Roadway Whiz, to send us some photos of 15 east of Hartford, because I'd love to see what that looked like before Interstate.
era.
Yeah, because I
Thanks,
believe I believe the I-86 designation was a relatively short-lived thing.
86 was not that short-lived. 84, the original 84 was. 86 lasted.
So the original
Well,
iteration
86
of
lasted into the 1980s.
Yeah, and it was designated in the 60s. It had a decent.
it was
length.
less than 20 years, I think. I think it was late 60s when it was first introduced.
Yeah, something like that.
And I think by the time it reverted back to 84, it would have been the early 80s.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're talking maybe 15 years. But that's enough time for stuff to get signed and for stuff to be prominently accepted. Like I've had
I could
people
look this up, but I'm in the moment right now.
I've had people on my YouTube channel write comments on my Hartford area video saying, "Well, I remember when this stretch was signed as I-86." You know.
Yeah.
And that was
Absolutely.
a relatively short
Absolutely.
window of time, but it's totally believable because it was an accepted designation.
As I said, I've
that
got
stretch.
proof that it was signed.
Yeah. And I'm almost positive that there were signs along I-384 and along the Willimantic bypass that referenced I-84.
All right. I'm going to refer to Kurumi. In 1968, the new interstate link to Providence was approved. For a short time, the planned number was 82. That's when 84 followed its current path still.
So it was 1968.
1968, it was designated. 1971, they flipped 84 and 86 officially. So you had 3 years of it being 82. It then was 84. It was canceled in 1983 and flipped in 1984. So it lasted from 71 to 84, 13 years of I-86
So it
existing.
was barely a decade.
Yeah. Yeah, meanwhile,
But clearly
But
enough time to...
But meanwhile, they would have signed that whole thing completely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The whole time.
So we know that it would have been signed, like 84 is signed today.
Yeah.
It just would have had 86 shields.
Apparently, as of 1999, there was still one I-86 sign. And I believe that could have been the one on US 44 as you head west. There was a sign that since replaced that said 74 to 84. Connecticut 74 in a square to I-84 in an interstate shield. Well, first of all, that was US 44 for a while. And you can clearly see the original outline of the US shield under the state route shield. So you know that was originally US 44 to I-84.
meanwhile, we're passing by the Toll Booth Willie exit.
Do you want to finish up
I do
quickly
want to
on
finish.
this?
I do
All right,
want to
I'll
finish.
let you finish up quickly here. I
So,
do want to mention,
yeah.
before
So
you
say-
do that,
All right.
we're passing the interchange, the main interchange in Worcester, Massachusetts, between Interstates 90, 290, and 395. It's very atypical that you will see auxiliary interstate routes from different parent
And I
interstates
think
end
there's
at
also
each other.
there's a ramp, I believe, to Route 12 as well.
Yeah, there's a Route 12 exit
Right.
ramp in there
And
also.
20.
Yeah.
And US 20.
Yeah.
US 20 is in there also.
I do want to get
Yeah.
back to that, so I will finish my story real
All right,
quick.
go ahead, real quick.
The sign
real quick.
on the left clearly said US 44 to I-84. There were two interstate shields patched over the original sign. So the one on top said I-84. I'm sure the one underneath, which was wooden, said I-86. And it's quite likely that below that wooden I-86 was an original 1960s I-84 shield. That's my hypothesis, and I never came back with a crowbar to prove it. Onto this.
And that sign is gone.
That sign has long been replaced.
Yeah.
But onto this interchange. Recently, Massachusetts decided, because it didn't want to restart exit numbers at the border on I-395 and then restart everything for I-290, that it was going to continue the exit numbering from the border and post I-395 mileposts along I-290, even though 395 officially ends here. You have dual mileposts along the entire length of I-290 showing I-395 on that for no reason.
Yeah.
Also, they I think they equated 395 mile 8 to I-290 mile 0. That's not actually the case, like 7.4. They just fudged it so they could put the miles together. So it's almost as stupid as what Vermont is doing with its dual.
It's a lazy way of doing it. Yeah.
Really, it's lazy and stupid.
Although they're really carrying over what was already there because the sequential exit numbering picked up where 395 left off.
I get that they don't.
Anyway.
I get why they don't want the numbers to reset so soon after they had previously reset.
Yeah, you don't want 3 different sets of exit numbers in 10 miles.
So what they're now thinking, again, this is unofficial. People are talking that, are they preparing to replace 290 with 395?
or we don't know. Well, who knows?
I mean, they could do that.
That takes a lot of effort. And it does end at 495, so you'd be connecting... 395 would then connect 95 to 495. So
It's
maybe,
a very spur-like highway. Yeah, right.
And then 190 would just be there.
190.
It would just be there.
Yeah, what would you do with 190 in that situation?
Upgrade Massachusetts 2 to Interstate 90N.
I-990. Massachusetts
995.
I-990. Yeah.
995. New highest number.
Yeah, right. So I've been familiar peripherally with the 290, 395 interface for a long time, ever since I was a kid. And I always thought it was odd that you had 2 3-digit interstates just end at each other like that.
I thought it was cool that you had 2 3-digit interstates signed in button copy from a freeway.
Well, see, I had that luxury too when I was a kid, but I didn't appreciate button copy like you did. So,
I didn't as a kid.
Well,
I didn't until 20 years ago and maybe a few days.
maybe a few days.
Yeah, so we also passed the exit for Route 146, which goes down to Providence. So that's kind of a mostly freeway.
About to become all freeway.
Yeah, so they've been gradually upgrading 146 to freeway standard for the last several years, I think.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah,
when I was in college, they were just getting to upgrading the piece into Worcester from a 2-lane road to a freeway.
Okay, see, I've driven 146 only when it was at least a 4-lane divided highway.
Yeah. And I remember the construction in Worcester. I had contemplated having a road meet in Worcester when they were doing construction, but I just never got
Should have
around.
met up with us. At the time, I knew exactly 2 people in the field, one of whom made his home in Cranston, Rhode Island, which is the other end of 146. So, hence why I would have visited Worcester and seen the ongoing construction, both of 146 and RI 403, the industrial connector. Another road that didn't exist when I first got to it.
Uh-huh. 403 is another fun one.
I'd say it was cooler when it was under construction, but that was my introduction to, they just move roads around to build freeways.
Yeah, that's the thing about freeways, is that some of these freeways are far more interesting while they're being built than they are when they're completed.
I would say anything modern, that is the case.
I mean, in my experience, it is.
Old school freeways are still cool, like RI 99 has its intrigue.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you're talking about Woonsocket?
I'm talking about
199?
Wooney is a very cool place.
Well, Woonsocket has its own appeals as far as signage. Signage, as we call it, yeah.
Who came up with that term?
That wasn't me.
That was not me, but I think it was someone in this room.
I didn't come up with that.
I did not come up
Don't look at me.
Someone, I don't think Sean came up with it. I think it was either someone in the forum or Spooey came up with it.
I feel like it was one of you two, for sure.
It was not me.
I did not invent that term. I used it.
I think you popularized it.
Thank you.
Oh, we've got some slow traffic up ahead here as we hit
for the exit from
96.
Mike Milbury.
No,
that's one L.
Yeah, maybe he'll beat the traffic away with his shoe.
Yeah. New York Islanders Wall of Fame honoree Mike Milbury.
He can die in a fire.
Well, you know what? We're coming up to 8:03 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. You know what that means, guys, right? It's time for WBZ's Traffic on the Threes and the Subaru Retailers of New England all-wheel drive Traffic on the Threes. What's happening out there, Roadway Whiz? Well, the Massachusetts Turnpike is totally screwed at exit 96 for some incident happening in the westbound travel lanes, and there's severe rubbernecking in the eastbound travel lanes, so avoid that area if at all possible. And I'm Dan Murphy with WBZ's Traffic on the Threes.
I thought radio stations had 4 letters.
Some of them don't. Some of them only have 3. Yeah.
I never listened to WBZ.
Like WOR.
WOR.
It's WWOR.
That's on TV.
I know.
Which is life. Radio is death.
Remember how I said that shit is happening in the westbound lanes today? Well, there's
Sucks
another.
To be them.
Yeah, it's a good thing I was going east today. on this day when I filmed this. I filmed this video on a couple of different days in late August of 2021.
See, traffic is back. COVID's a myth.
That's right.
That's the only possible conclusion.
Everyone is wearing masks in their cars.
The government knows where every single car is.
As Doug and Steve nod their head in approval.
Yep. We're like Santa Claus.
So we are. I believe the next exit is going to be for 495.
Next exit is 12. That's all I know.
Well, I'm pretty sure you're wrong about that.
11A. Was it 11A?
Son, we're on mileage.
It is 11A. Yeah, it's 11A.
So I don't know what you're talking about
11A.
anymore, but.
Yep.
Is 495 old 11A?
It's 11A because 495 was obviously added later than the original Mass Pike.
So from here on in, we're at least 6 lanes on the Pike, 3 lanes per direction.
We were from 84 on it.
We picked up an extra lane at 84. Yeah.
Yep. That's where approximately 2/3 of the traffic gets in.
Yeah. Well, 84 is a major exchange point.
I won't claim that because I'm sure that's often not true. But anytime I was going from Boston back to New Jersey, most traffic was getting out there because it was mostly parents picking up their kids from college. Whether it was Thanksgiving or middle of May.
I noticed that
everyone was going that way.
Yeah. I noticed that a lot, where basically the traffic, basically, let's say if you're going, either direction, changes at the exit for I-84.
Because if you're heading east, that's your exit for barbecue. So
yeah,
why go any further?
Yeah. Well, I know that if you're, basically.
I hope we get monetized by this barbecue restaurant.
Yeah.
I hope they're listening.
Maybe we'll do some cross promotion. Maybe they'll feed us.
I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, we'll pay you in barbecue.
I will accept this. I will leave my current job if you promise me one that pays in barbecue.
Would you get paid in pulled pork or brisket?
Every day would be different and new.
Or maybe barbecue chicken.
Shout out that will forever place this broadcast. Congratulations to Cincinnati, who appears to have cemented their place as the only Group of 5 team in the college football playoff history. We'll find out, but now you know when this is.
Steve, would you like an update on the SEC championship?
No, I would like to hear more about barbecue, though.
Are you sure about that?
Or? I'm quite sure about that.
Okay. So you've had mutton barbecue before. How was it?
I would like to interrupt.
Absolutely stunning, and go to Owensboro, Kentucky. Highly worth it.
I think the last place I had barbecue was Brooks Barbecue in Oneonta, New York, which is not far from my cabin. It's like the big barbecue place in the area. They actually sell their sauces in supermarkets now.
Anyway, Steve Hafner in the chat alerted me to this, and I thought I would make mention of this while we have your attention, that Alabama has prevailed in the SEC championship game tonight. So congratulations to them. They triumphed over the University of Georgia by a final score of 41-24.
Much more interested in the 35-21 shellacking that, or 35-20 shellacking that Cincinnati laid down over Houston, proving that
Cincinnati won,
and they are the only undefeated team in college football.
Yeah, now that Georgia lost.
So
yeah.
It is pretty much impossible to leave them out of the playoff at this point. Right?
I think you got to put them in, don't you?
We will find out.
At this point.
We will find out on Tuesday.
I mean, because...
Is it Tuesday, or do they let us know on Sunday now?
Sunday.
They might let us know tomorrow. I think
it might be tomorrow, because the only games of significance that are left is, Michigan?
That's tonight.
That's tonight.
The only time they ever delay it is if Army or Navy is in the rankings, which is definitely not the case.
There's no way that Army or Navy is in the college football playoff discussion.
Yep. So 12 p.m. Sunday, December 5th. So we will know for lunchtime tomorrow. And given that Cincinnati was ranked 4th, the 5th place team lost, and 3 just beat 1, and 2 is going to win and triumph and go Wolverines. And Cincinnati's in.
Yeah.
One can only hope.
You know what? I give Michigan credit for beating Ohio.
Hell yeah.
You give it all back if you lose tonight.
Mark
They
Moore
won't.
says it will be tomorrow.
They're going to release the next CFP ranking.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
I do not think.
Yeah.
I do not think that Cincinnati needs
Like an
Michigan
Annie's
to
song.
lose at this point. I think Cincinnati is in because Oklahoma State lost.
Yeah,
I think you just needed one of those teams to lose, and
they're not gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna put Notre Dame in over Cincinnati.
Nope.
so.
Yeah, they might.
No, they
You never
won't.
know.
No,
Cincinnati
'cause
just played another game and won. Notre Dame didn't, and they were already ranked above Notre Dame.
Cincinnati beat Notre Dame head to head. So
If Cincy was ranked 4th and Notre Dame was ranked 6th coming into this weekend, and Cincinnati won, they are not possibly flipping them.
Tomorrow will be 20. Tomorrow will be 20 days until Christmas, which means I have to eat candy from my advent calendar.
woohoo!
Why didn't you bring us candy from your advent calendar, Doug?
Because I have one piece a day.
My sister has an advent calendar where all the numbers are scrambled, so they have to hunt each day to figure
That's
out where
most
it
advent calendars.
is. Is it?
Yeah.
I'm a Jew. The first one I ever saw was in order, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, so I was at Trader Joe's recently, so they had their normal advent calendar with chocolate. They had an advent calendar that was charcuterie themed, so basically you open up each window and you could get like cheese or meat or something like that. Then they had an advent calendar for cats.
So you got to eat cat every day?
No, like cat treats.
Oh, okay.
I'm
I'm glad you clarified that.
It's for
yeah.
cats.
Advent calendar for cats, not of cats. Got it.
Steve saw his life flash before his eyes just now, I think.
No, I want an advent calendar where every door you open, you get a kitten out. 25 new kittens.
24. They only go to
Jew,
They only
again.
go to Christmas Eve.
Again, Jew.
All right. So
Can we talk about I-495 while we're here?
It's a
Yeah,
road. It's
sure.
a long road. Goes places.
It's
Talk about cats.
495, which probably is not nearly as interesting as cats.
Oh God, it's not.
And I've driven it, so I know. It is, however, the second longest auxiliary interstate in the interstate system. It's a long-distance bypass of the Boston metro area. It connects Cape Cod with New Hampshire. Pretty
more or
much.
less.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, although you would never drive the length of it for any reason other than clinching purposes.
Not really, yeah. Unless you're a loser like me and you clinched it
Like
on
you
video.
might drive like
That counts.
half of it. Like if you're coming from like upstate New York, that's the way to go to the Cape.
Oh yeah, I mean, from the Mass Pike, you would take 495 up to New Hampshire. Absolutely.
Or what I would do normally if I were to go to, let's say, if I was taking like the Mass Pike up to New Hampshire, I exit in Worcester, then take 290,
Yeah.
495. But same
But
idea.
you could do this if it's rush hour. You don't want to go through Worcester.
Yeah, or what I do sometimes is I'll take 495 to Route 2,
Yeah.
and I'll take that back to New York.
The Mass Pike is the ideal dividing line. If you could go south to Cape Cod on 495 and it makes sense, you could go north to New Hampshire and it makes sense. You wouldn't really drive much more 495 than that. And to the end.
Yeah,
From
no.
either end, that's about as far as you would want to go.
Yeah.
You could maybe from the south end drive it as far as 2. From the north end, there's really not much below 90 that you would drive it to.
Like maybe to Taunton.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah, like local stuff.
Yeah.
But
But-
beyond that, it's just such a wide beltway that unless
Yeah.
everything is stopped up from 128 on in, you have no reason to be out there.
Unless a nuclear bomb has gone off on 128, like you're not going to want to drive 495 in its entirety.
Does this eliminate Foxborough? Please?
You could, I mean,
Can we eliminate Foxborough?
Foxborough is not on 128.
No,
so.
I just want to know if this bomb is strong enough to get rid of that.
Yeah, there's
mean-
there's an old episode of Family Guy, and basically, I guess there was like a nuclear bomb had went off, and then they were trying to go to a Twinkie factory in Natick because I guess Twinkies can
yes.
outlive the apocalypse or something
That is
like
true.
that. And of course, I guess from Rhode Island, you can probably take that part of the way to Natick.
I would like to mention as we head east from 495, you may have noticed that there are a few newish looking overpasses that we've been crossing over. In 2021, the Massachusetts Turnpike undertook the fast-tracking replacement of these overpasses in a program that I believe was carried out over the course of 6 weekends in the spring and summer of 2021. They replaced a total of 12 bridges over these 6 weekends. And I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the project, but if you look it up...
I love accelerated bridge construction.
Yeah, so these were, I believe these were prefabricated bridges that they fabricated off-site, and then over a weekend they would divert traffic and then set the new bridge.
Yep,
and
they bring the bridge basically right next to the existing one. You say go, you take the whole existing bridge out of service, cut it on both sides, pick it out with a large number of cranes, use those cranes to then plop the new one in place, fasten your connections, and you're good to go. We've done this on a few projects. My company, New Jersey Route 18 over Route 1 is an example I'll point to of two very major, you can't take these roads out of service. They're used on weekends for shopping. There's never a time when those roads aren't busy. So you pick your poison, you shove people into 3 or 4 lanes, two one direction, one the other, and you say, all right, this weekend is going to be painful. Mm-hmm. But the alternative to try to demolish this and build it in pieces is going to be painful for months or years. So we're just going to move everyone over, chop the whole thing out. What we did, northbound, the whole thing chopped out, put the whole northbound bridge in that weekend, done. One other weekend, you do the southbound side. That's 2 weekends of pain, you're done completely. And so while it's a lot more expensive than traditional bridge construction because of the materials, the machinery, whatever that you have to use, saves a lot of time, so you're saving some money that way, and it's so much better for traffic. You're saving millions of dollars for the local economy for people who are shopping, able to get through and do their normal business. So that's those are the arguments. When you use accelerated bridge construction, is a major road like the Mass Pike is definitely a candidate for something like that. You wouldn't do it you close the truss bridge, you have to help it.
It's kind of like popping in a leaf, but for bridge construction.
Yeah.
But that's, I just realized I do have some bridge credentials. Okay, cool.
That makes you qualified for next Saturday.
I guess so. I guess I'll have to be
Yeah. And this is not the only application of this in the state of Massachusetts. On Interstate 93 up in Somerville, north of Boston, a couple of years ago, they did the exact same thing. They did an accelerated bridge replacement program that was geared towards, again, these simple, overpass structures.
I'm assuming north of the double deck section?
Yes.
Okay.
These were simple spanning overpasses that you could replace in a weekend. So they would pick weekends to replace pairs of bridges at a time.
You message the locals, you put up diversion signs, and you tell people try to avoid this area this weekend, and you just get it done.
Yeah, and I believe the Somerville application came first. So Mass Pike probably looked at that and saw, well, that was pretty successful, so we can probably apply the same thing here in this particular case. So they did that with these bridges between 495 and Framingham, and I'm sure that if they need to do so again in the future, then that's
Can
something that
they
they'll
do it with these 14-foot bridges and make them the right height?
Yes, so obviously these overpasses you're talking about predate modern interstate standard, right?
Right. 14.6 is the absolute minimum, but for through truck routes such as the Mass Pike, 16 feet is really the minimum.
Yeah.
So if it's posted 14 feet, usually they have at least 6 inches of clearance above that. So if your truck is 14.1 or 2, by accident, it's not going to scrape the top. So let's assume these bridges need to be raised by a solid 1.5 feet. And
more or less, yeah.
You really want to do that because you don't want trucks saying, I can't use the Mass Pike because I'm too big, and thus be diverting them onto streets where they really have no business being. You want your trucks to be using the road that's meant for trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in everyone's interest to raise these bridges, and I have no idea how new these ones are. They didn't look that old, but
they kind of look original to me.
Yeah,
they've been refurbished over the years, but
I have no way to know.
That's one of those things where if a bridge comes due for replacement, they'll replace it to 16 feet clearance.
I would hope.
But they're not going to do it if the bridge is still good for another 2 decades.
So the way bridges are, after 30 to 40 years typically, they'll do a superstructure replacement or redecking, rehab the piers, everything. So everything from the ground up will at least be polished, shiny, and look new. Typically, the deck is new. The girders underneath the deck may be old or new. It depends. But everything underground is still original. After another 30 or 40 years, that's when you've really gotten to the lifespan of the bridge. That's what we're talking about here, that bridges built in the 50s into the 60s for the Mass Pike are going to start to come due soon for that second, really tear it out, build it from the ground up, don't use the same substructure, which is the part underground, because that starts to get cracked and seepage and whatever, loses strength over time. So this bridge certainly is a late 50s, early 60s bridge. This one they may not have even redecked or done the superstructure. They may have just put on a new deck and kept the girders.
Yeah,
They'll get around to this sooner or later.
Yeah, right.
And we're just passing the exit for Natick, which, as I mentioned, was the quote-unquote Twinkie factory from the Family Guy episode. Natick also has Route 9, which is an interesting road in that area.
Yeah.
9 has a lot of malls, actually.
And,
yeah, right.
Apparently, there's a location of Kelly's Roast Beef in Natick.
Yeah, I drove Route 9 a lot when I was with Kelly. It's true.
Not
exactly zero. The viewers will care about.
I see what he did there.
Or as I was actually talking about a roast beef restaurant.
Yeah, that at this point that's probably tastier. But Route 9 is an old school, mostly 4-lane divided highway from Worcester east to Boston. Mostly signalized intersections. A few old interchanges in there, like really tight clover leaves.
Yeah.
It's a cool, funky drive.
We're down to about the last 20 minutes of this episode,
Aww.
and from here on in, things are going to start to happen pretty quickly. So I do want to prep you guys in case you weren't already prepared for that, as we are about to enter Metro Boston.
Market.
You're for what now?
Star Market.
Yeah, well, we'll pass that.
It's not going to be called Star Market anymore, but that's.
I don't think it's called that anymore, is it?
Yeah, everyone up there still calls it Star Market, even if
It
went through Shaw's. Maybe it's still Shaw's, but
I always knew it as Shaw's, but I don't think it's called that anymore.
you're not local. Nope.
No.
Star Market.
Yeah.
No, I think it would be Star Market.
Star Market.
Yeah, right.
Star Market.
Yeah. So I believe the next exit, now that we've passed the Natick Service Plaza, is for 128.
It's for Interstate 95, says Massachusetts in a very serious
It's
voice.
I-95. So there's a question that I saw like maybe a half hour ago in the chat about the Mass Pike and why is the section inside 128 called the Mass Pike Extension. Well, it's actually very simple. That the Mass Pike originally ended in Waltham at 128.
Waltham.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah, Waltham. Yeah.
WBZ traffic reporters call it Waltham. So I don't know
I wouldn't trust anything WBZ says at this point.
Oh boy.
If they don't know Waltham correctly, forget it.
Oh boy. Well, anyway, the Mass Pike originally ended at Waltham at 128. Is that good enough for you?
I was going to wait until we actually get there because you'll see very obviously
Now,
what it is.
I-90 inside of 128 into downtown Boston was originally drawn up as the Western Expressway. It was not originally supposed to be part of the Mass Pike system. It was, in order for it to be fast-tracked and for funding to be secured for its construction, Mass Pike Authority took it over and incorporated it into an eastern extension of the Mass Pike. So if you hear that section of I-90 referred to as the Mass Pike Extension, that's where that's coming from. That the section from 128 on into downtown Boston was part of a designated extension of the Pike system in order to get that section built. That sounds about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
And the character changes noticeably as you head east.
So once we get inside 128, yeah.
It really doesn't feel like Mass Pike at that point.
Yeah, it feels like the Expressway.
Yep.
Or 93 or something like that.
It just feels it's totally unique experience.
Yeah.
2 miles until we can point it out.
Yeah, so you will notice, much to your chagrin, there are no 128 signs on that.
Not my
overhead.
chagrin, it's the local chagrins.
Everybody still calls it 128,
Yep.
but
They'll be calling it for another 128 years.
probably.
At least.
They tried to take down all the signs on 128 and were forced to put up shields, supplemental shields at every single exit because people protested that loudly.
Yeah, 128 is so ingrained in the local culture that they refuse to accept that it's...
And that's because I-95 originally went through Boston and was intended to go up the Northeast Expressway, that's now US 1. So 128 did not have an interstate number back then. It was always supposed to just be 128.
It was supposed to be State Highway 128.
By the time they moved I-95 onto it in the early 80s, that is why it's so ingrained, because it's not like with the interstate era they put 95 on there, or even any other number. They waited way too long.
Yeah. So by the time they finally did, it was too late as far as...
It's gradually... I honestly, within about 20 to 30 years, I could see it going away, but very slowly you're seeing references decrease. I've heard it, I-95 in traffic reports now instead of 128.
Yeah. Not on WBZ, though.
I don't know what the station is.
Yeah.
But here very clearly, the original Mass Pike went left. And you could see the entrance ramp. You could see the clearing. That was the main line to the left. They built this to the right as the extension.
So this is where the extension began.
Yep.
Yeah.
Originally, the main line just went left straight into what was then the toll plaza, had the interchange with 128, and that was that.
And then when they built the extension, they built a new plaza, which is located around the next curve here. And that was eliminated, of course, with the conversion to cashless tolling.
So the old one was 14 and this one was 15.
So does that explain why there are two different exit numbers here?
Yep.
Originally?
You use 15 from the westbound side because you're going through the mainline toll plaza, that's 15. Use 14 from the eastbound side because that feeds into...
Got it.
Yeah, it's the Mass Pike did exit numbering based on the toll plazas that you use, which is why exit 19 was the main line.
Yeah.
It was 18. Austin, Brighton, Cambridge was 18, 19, 20. Eastbound was 18, westbound was 20.
Yeah.
And if you didn't use either of those, it was 19.
Yeah, that's another weird one. Yeah.
We'll get there soon.
But yeah, I mean we've gotten around it now with mileage-based exit numbering.
Yeah.
But the original exit numbering in some of these areas didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But we are now inside 128, so
you can see how the character has changed on this road.
It's a very urban-looking highway now, right?
Much more, as you said, like 93.
Yeah.
You suddenly feel like you're in the city instead of in some rural area.
That's correct. It feels like you're on the expressway south of town or on 93 north of town, yeah. But yeah, so this section of the pike was the last of the original pike to be built. It didn't come into use until the mid-60s, so about 10 years after.
I would argue that Ted Williams Tunnel is no more or less original than this is.
Well,
This came after the original pike, so this technically is not original.
No, I'm saying that it's original. So the pike that existed pre-2000.
The pike that existed when you were born.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call this part original.
Well, we can debate about semantics if you want. But
I say after this video, we have a nice friendly debate over semantics.
I'm okay with that.
Cool. Fight you.
We don't have a lot of time, and stuff's going to happen very quickly here.
There's a rail line on the left.
That is an MBT. That's the T, isn't it? That's a commuter line.
No,
right?
The T is the subway, just to be clear.
Quickly, can you summarize that for us real quick? The T is just the subway?
If you say the T, you're talking about the subway.
But commuter line is what?
I don't know what they call that shorthand.
I always thought it was all the T.
You can't. No, the T is specifically subway. I'm going to take the T. Means you're getting in the subway.
Okay.
I don't actually know what they call the commuter rail.
Commuter rail is still under MBTA jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But
it's
not called the T.
It's not. That's not called the T. Here's Star Market.
Here's the Star Market.
It is Star Market. There you go.
See,
Boom.
Thank you. Yeah.
All
okay.
right.
All right, we agree on something then.
Someone said Shaw's. I don't know.
So there's that.
Well, they're owned by the same company.
Yeah. This might be the only one that has a Star Market sign left on it.
I feel like that's one that would just be kept for naming rights and stuff like that.
This used to be a free stretch. I would always be getting... So the aforementioned roast beef chick used to go to Wellesley. So I would always be getting on the Mass Pike at 17, off at 16 because that was free.
Did you just call her the roast beef chick?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about roast beef and cartons all day long.
Oh my God. All right, I'm going to try to have you continue after that, but go ahead.
No, but now they established a gantry here, so they cut off the ability for locals to use this stretch for free, which I'm sure made them very angry.
Like legit angry?
I'm not sure if it put me in there or not. You decide.
Yeah, so
we should talk about the air rights, though.
Yeah, talk about air rights for a second.
The entire stretch of the Mass Pike extension has air rights for sale. Anyone can build over this stretch if they have the appropriate building permits to otherwise build on either side or whatever. They can purchase the air rights to build over this. So we saw Star Market, we saw the hotel just now. As you get into Boston, you'll see more tunnels under buildings. Well, the most notable of those under the Prudential Center was originally Daylight for a few years. They then built the Prudential Center on top of the Mass Pike and tunneled it. So theoretically, if you wanted to spend the money, you could bridge the Mass Pike here with your very own building.
And the Boston Red Sox could build a new stadium above the Mass Turnpike if they wanted to.
The number 128 will die out before the Red Sox move out of Fenway.
You know,
I simultaneously have spoken the truth and both appealed to Red Sox fans and given everyone who's not a Red Sox fan a laugh as to how stupid Red Sox fans are.
Well, we know we have our share of Red Sox fans watching tonight.
And they appreciate that Fenway will never die, and we're all laughing at them. So, works out for everyone.
I'm cool with Fenway never dying. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm cool with the Red Sox always being the laughing stock of baseball.
Yeah, it is a nice ballpark.
It's the laughing stock of the American League because Wrigley Field gives it a run for its money.
Oh, Wrigley's wonderful. Love Wrigley.
You think so?
Oh, yes. Wrigley doesn't have a 200-foot left field, so inherently they're better.
So
here's 18.
Yeah, so the Alston-Brighton exits were renumbered recently as part of the...
They're called the ABC exits locally, Alston, Brighton, Cambridge. They actually are called ABC.
Oh, do they actually call them
that? Locals call it the ABC exits, not 18, 19, 20, or whatever numbers they have now.
131, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. No one uses that. It's ABC.
Yeah. Okay. The Boston Bruins training facility is on the right, I think. Somewhere in here, isn't it?
The Boston Bruins, their training facility is in Wilmington.
Oh, then what the hell
Delaware?
am I thinking about?
No, Wilmington, Mass.
Wilmington, Delaware. All right, maybe I'm confusing them
we
with
just passed
somebody
by
else.
a New Balance.
That
could be like
according
Celtics.
to what I've seen, that should be the last.
Oh, maybe a Celtics. I'm thinking about.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm surprised I knew where the Bruins.
So let's see if there's any more.
I'm impressed. You know where they are.
Well, whenever the Bruins make a trade, they basically have an announcement in Wilmington.
All right. Well, there you go.
Wilmington, Mass, home of 5 people and.
The Boston.
So here's the ABC exit that departs on the left. The old location of the Alston-Brighton toll plaza is coming up as we go around the curve.
Yeah,
here.
on the curve.
Yeah.
Literally, the freeway main line dropped to 10 miles an hour. There were speed limit 10 on the main line.
This was crazy right here.
Oh
in
yeah.
the old days.
Yeah, this was the toll plaza, by the way. We just passed it.
Yep.
And coming out of it, it was an absolute madhouse of people going every which way.
And you had to merge back into 3 lanes right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, this overpass that we're on right now is scheduled for replacement.
Oh, God, not soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they built this whole thing elevated here for large portions of the Mass Pike in Boston are elevated.
Yeah.
And I could see it showing its age.
Yeah. Well, this is all original early 60s construction. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this project is a little bit complicated. See, here's the gantry I was telling you about.
Interesting.
Before.
That was not on there, but I absolutely agree it's there.
Eat your words, young man.
I just said there's no website that shows that gantry, so
there is.
They're sneaking a toll on you.
YouTube.com/roadwaywiz. That's the website.
Ooh, I'd like to go there.
You should.
How much do I have to pay to see the website?
$0.00.
That is the best deal of the century. Let's go.
See. As we round the corner
here comes exit 22 and the dead body.
And before we get there, as we enter downtown Boston, Fenway Park is going to be
Boo!
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 Fenway Park, built in 1912. Its opening day was postponed by 2 weeks because of the sinking of the Titanic.
Yay!
Believe it or not, you can look that up. As we head straight ahead into downtown, the Prudential Center is very prominent straight ahead.
So there were 2 major tragedies that season, is what you're telling me.
In 1912? Well,
right in a row. 2 major
tragedies. Women and children first.
Exit 21 is just a single on-ramp here, and the dead body exit was always number 22.
But my heart will go on.
I see what you did there.
Yeah,
That's
that ramp right there is 21.
The on-ramp.
That on-ramp on the left side, that was exit 21.
Yeah. But this exit on the right
This
coming
looks
up
like
is,
they're building over air rights more.
This is more air rights development,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Makes more financial sense in the city.
And then what the tunnel that we're entering here is the Prudential Center Tunnel, which was built, well, the tunnel itself can be more described as a cut-and-cover tunnel.
Yes.
Because the development was built above the pike after the pike was already in place. This has always been a poorly lit tunnel.
Yes, that perfect place to bring a dead body then.
This is the Steve Alpert Dead Body Memorial Tunnel, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, a moment of silence. Continue.
So yeah, the Prue Center and everything around it was built on top of the turnpike after the pike was built through this area. And that's, again, going back to what Steve said a few minutes ago about air rights. So the pike and I-90 used to end at I-93 until about...
20. The construction...
20 years ago.
20 years ago?
The construction happened from about 40 years ago to 10 years ago. But the actual...
Yeah.
Somewhere around 18-ish years ago, while I was up there, is when this whole reconfiguration happened here.
Yeah. So we now have exit ramps to the tunnels on I-93. I-90 eastbound will continue on its own tunnel. And welcome to the Big Dig project.
And the reason this is all left exits is because that was the main line. They couldn't move people around enough to make it a right exit.
Yeah. And you're in the middle of a downtown district.
It's so crammed in the rail lines and the utilities under there. This is the only place they could put the tunnel.
I-90 passes underneath the 4-point channel in this tunnel that we're passing through right now. I mean, we could probably spend an entire episode just talking about the engineering of the Big Dig, but is there anything about the Big Dig that stands out to you that you want to highlight?
The only part of it that doesn't leak is the only part that my company built, which is the Zakim Bunker Hill Bridge.
Hooray!
Every other part of this is a tunnel that leaks, so...
Yeah, the I-90...
They actually, at one point, they were measuring the leakage in gallons per minute, saying, as long as it doesn't go above a certain number of gallons per minute, we're fine. And it was something like 1,000 gallons per minute, or 1,300 was the threshold. And it's just like, imagine 1,300 gallons per minute in your basement. But apparently that's okay for the tunnel, because the tunnel had so many leaks that that's what they could live with.
Well, but these tunnels were also built with pumping systems, too.
Well, they need them
could pump out the water.
Because of how badly built they were, they need those pumping systems.
Toll gantry right here.
Yep.
But this was always tolled.
Yeah. Here's the Ted Williams Tunnel.
This was actually always tolled. This was the first open road tolling in the system, was this tunnel.
I think you're right about that, yeah.
Yeah, this was tolled for many years while the rest of the...
We should differentiate what we just drove through with the Fort Point Tunnel with the tunnel we're driving through right now, which is the Ted Williams Tunnel, which was open to traffic, I believe, in about the mid-90s, something like that.
I'm going to defer to Doug on some of this history.
I believe it was mid-90s when the Ted Williams Tunnel opened. This, by the way, was one of the first major components of the Big Dig to reach full completion.
Yes.
Now, the problem at the time was that in the mid-90s, the Ted Williams Tunnel in the South Boston end didn't really connect to anything because the I-90 tunnel west of there was still under construction. But the Ted Williams Tunnel was part of the overall Big Dig, plan to better give people from downtown Boston access to Logan Airport.
They used this as an excuse to close one of the 1A tunnels to refurbish it. I forget whether it was Sumner or Callahan. They just outright closed one of the tunnels and said, use the TED for now.
I believe that. Yeah.
Not that it wasn't needed.
Because the other harbor tunnels, the Sumner and the Callahan, the Sumner was built as a two-way tunnel.
Yeah.
And then the Callahan, the original Sumner tunnel, yeah. And then the Callahan became the one-way pair for the Sumner. And those were the only two tubes under Boston Harbor until the Ted Williams Tunnel opened in the 90s.
You see this signed as 1A North. No, this is very much still I-90 until the actual merge.
Yeah, we are still on I-90 officially at this point.
This is one of the only places that you'll find a 1 or 2 digit interstate ending not at an interstate or even a U.S. highway. It just ends at a state highway. But 1A is on the National Highway Network because of its local importance, serving the airport, actually a freeway in this short stretch. So 1A was judged as an appropriate road that an interstate could end at.
Welcome to East Boston, everybody, as we emerge from under Boston Harbor. Logan Airport is on your right. the Mixmaster interchange that we're going through is a series of ramps connecting Logan Airport and the Mass Pike with the approaches to the Sumner and Callahan tunnels, as well as Route 1A in East Boston. And we're, by the way, as we go through here, we are still officially on I-90.
For another 4 seconds.
Yeah, you will see a big end I-90 shield on your right as we make this curve here into East Boston.
Technically, it's already ended, but we won't say.
Wherever the official jurisdiction of Mass Turnpike ends.
Aww.
There it is. End I-90, folks.
I highly recommend 1A as a drive for people.
It is 3,020 miles to downtown Seattle, Washington from here via I-90.
Yeah.
Revere.
Revere. We have about 90 seconds left in this video. Included in this is the elevated East Boston Expressway viaduct, which we're crossing on Route 1A right now. Guys, we only have about a minute left in this video, but I know that we can go overtime if you want. The rest of this video will take us northeasterly on Route 1A through East Boston and Revere.
Yeah.
See, I didn't go to college in Boston, so I never
pronounce it Revere.
You see, I never learned all those pronunciations because I never went to college.
That's one of the most.
Instead, we learned all the pronunciations of places that have weird sounding A sounds. Like Avon and Almond.
Oh my god!
Alaska.
I know. Because every time I visit Boston and I turn on WBZ, I hear them reference town names, and I'm like, what the hell did they just say?
Yeah. Well, I think I've been around Boston enough as an adult that I've
Wellesley
picked
Hills,
up on-
Wellesley Farms,
picked
Natick,
up on
West
enough
Natick,
things.
Auburndale,
Yeah.
Framingham, Worcester.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Framingham and Worcester, but that's about it.
I used to take the train that way all the time. My cousin lived out there, so I know all those stations.
I'm sure you do. I mean, you had nothing else to listen to for 4 years. So, that's it.
One thing about the MBTA that has going for it is usually not on fire, unlike the Washington Metro.
Oh my god, I know. That's it for tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching. With a special thanks to everybody in the live chat and everybody, well, all 2 of you who joined me here at Wiz headquarters tonight to help make this episode possible.
We have pizza.
We do have leftover pizza still.
I still have not taken a whiz at your headquarters. I should fix that.
Well, you can fix that if you want.
I
do you guys want to go overtime with some stuff, or what do you want to do?
What do you want to talk about? What are people?
Well, we skimmed through a bunch of crap here in the last 20 minutes.
Oh my god, the amount of depth we could go into with Big Dig talk.
Well,
we could just have like a Wednesday night special of 2 hours of talking about the Big Dig.
I mean, we really could if you think
Make a
about
podcast episode for that.
Yeah, I would kind of
that's
punt
the way to
anything
go.
Big Dig related just because of how deep you could dive with that.
Yeah, that there is an impossible amount of stuff, and we only really scratched the surface of it during this live trip. But anything that you guys want to say about the Mass Pike end of Boston?
Boston end of Mass Pike?
Or what,
Whatever.
Mass Pike related as far as Boston is concerned. What do you guys...
I think you still find button copy, at least 1 or 2 signs on the overhead streets leading into it. Massachusetts did not use a lot of button copy. They went through a brief phase, but almost all of it's gone. This quote-unquote Western Expressway, the Mass Pike extension, was built at the one time when... I mean, it was built in the early 60s, but I guess the signs came due at the one time when they were actively using reflective button copy. And no, the original signs were non-reflective button copy. And you found those in Newton until recently. So they built the original at the right time for those signs, and then they refurbished some of the signs at the right time to be reflective button copy. So the extension, until a couple of years ago, was a treasure trove of old signs on all the surface streets and connecting streets. Nothing on there was button copy on the road itself, though.
Yeah, I never got around to actually exploring like the off ramps and the side streets.
Almost all
stuff.
the cool stuff is gone at this point. There was it a state named Interstate Shield? I want to say on one of the overhead
So
streets.
I'd have to look through your photos.
Something approaching
that are
Columbus
online,
Street.
yeah.
Maybe it's just an U.S. Shield, but yeah, lots of old stuff around the streets of Boston in general, and the Mass Pike came through at the right time. That a lot of the signs put up for it remained into the 2000s, and that was your best glimpse into historic signage.
Yeah.
When I was up there, the Big Dig, I was there 01 through 06, and the old signs for the Fitzgerald Expressway.
Oh, they had old signs for that?
Yes,
Really?
Fitzgerald Expressway. There were a few of those still around the surface streets of Big Dig in 01, 02.
No kidding.
Yep. So those
So
are
I think-
up at Alps Roads.
Yeah, I think that... Oh, they are on...
They're on my I-93 surface streets page, I believe.
Okay.
You may have to hunt for them on my site a little bit, but
Because I mean, I never did any exploration of
those
Boston
are
until
so long gone.
those are long gone,
Yeah.
like early 2000s or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, the latest lasting button copy was that one on ramp. I think the exit 21 on ramp for that matter. There's one on ramp to the westbound pike, and there was the park and ride at the North Station. That's an exit off of 93 as you're in that interchange.
Yeah.
That took you up to that level. That was the only other place that I knew of it recently.
Okay. Yeah, because like the first time that I ever did any kind of driving on the Mass Pike was probably like 2013 or so, but that would have been long after
You
the
would
stuff
have,
you're talking about.
yeah, you would have found like the exit 17 back then in Newton. You would have found all the old signs in that elongated, almost rotary.
Yeah.
Those got replaced a couple of years ago.
Well, folks, I think we've touched on. Oh yeah, that stuff. Yeah. I mean,
Fitzgerald Expressway, Mass Turnpike, points west and south.
points west and south, all main points.
Yeah, why not throw a link on that to the live chat?
Because I'm
You
not
have
into
it?
live chat.
Well, screw you. Well, I think
AlpsRoads.net, Massachusetts I-93 Needland Street signage. You'll find it because you know my site by heart because you have it bookmarked. We're good.
you hear that, people? Okay, fine.
Yeah. Rewind.
Be kind, please rewind.
Well, I think we've covered a lot tonight, and we've done a good job of giving a good overview of things.
And if you like what you saw tonight, make sure you hit the like button.
Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty of new live content coming up for you guys in the weeks ahead.
And we have plenty of hills.
Yeah, well, we got plenty of that too. Thanks to Doug from Gribble Nation. Thanks to Steve from AlpsRoads.net.
Thanks to Dan from Roadway Wiz.
Yeah, thanks to me too. You know, I did
And,
okay.
Thanks for Mr.
Yeah.
And special thanks to Mr. Angry.
Mr. Angry, yeah. Thanks to everybody who helped make this live presentation flow smoothly. We had a lot of people joining us tonight. It was great to see you all. And we're very happy to kick off Season 3 in style tonight. And we look forward to the next show. We'll be back here next Saturday with another live presentation. Hope you can join us then. And until then, from all of us here at Roadway Wiz, have a good night. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Go Cincinnati.
Your Go Cincinnati.